Chapter 454, First Time Doing Blacksmith Job. Chapter 454, First Time Doing Blacksmith Job. It was the whole life experience of a spirit-level blacksmith. His host soul turned into a beam of light, entering the halo of the memories. It was like he had just visited a whole new earth and firmament. Scenes of treasure refining process appeared in that light of memory. It told the story of that spirit-level blacksmith from the time he had known nothing about refining. He then tried to practice the refining method. Step by step, he gradually held a good grasp of the secret techniques in refining treasures. His experience had been built up through thousands of times of refining treasures. The scenes of his progress were shown one by one inside the halo of memory. His host soul sank into it, watching countless scenes moving quickly in front of his eyes. It was like he was visiting a museum. All of a sudden, he felt helpless as he didn't know where to start. He found the scene in which the blacksmith had started his training in refining treasures, calmed down and started to perceive the practice. This spirit-level blacksmith used to know nothing about refining, and his knowledge of the subtle features of refining was just a white blank. The blacksmith used a human flame. The first time he refined something, he had used various metals and crystals to forge a rough ring. A simple spirit-gathering array was carved on the ring to absorb the energy from the crystals. This ring was the simplest secret treasure with minor functions. It could absorb the profound chi and release it inside with just a flicker of thought from its master. But it could burst out only once. The energy a simple spirit-gathering array could absorb was limited. Perhaps it wasn't even as strong as a full-force strike from a disaster realm warrior. However, to Shi Yang, it was really tough to forge just a small treasure like that. He lingered on that scene, quieted down his mind to grasp the knowledge. It was an unknown period of time until he could remember all the details. He then left the halo of memory, wandering around the vault in search for the necessary materials to fabricate this spirit-gathering ring. His thought fluttered as he was urging the power of the earth flame in his body. A small flame emerged from his palm while his finger was continually pointing at the metals in front of him. The 3 types of black metals, jade crystals, and flint flew out one by one, falling into his small flame. Those 3 materials were being refined in the flame. He didn't know how long it had been until he was finally done. He then sent his soul consciousness into the flame. Inside the liquid that resulted from the 3 materials' complete smelting, he saw numerous impurities. Controlling the fiery flame, he started to melt these impurities down. However, when he had just enhanced the fiery flame, the liquid from the materials smelting evaporated directly. Shi Yang frowned. He knew his first time refining something had failed. Apparently, he hadn't mastered his control over the fiery flame. When he wanted to use the flame to melt the impurities, he had pushed it a little too much and had accidentally evaporated the materials he had been refining. He hadn't even combined the materials completely, no need to mention embedding the spirit-gathering array in it. If he couldn't carve the spirit-gathering array, he couldn't even form the initial shape of the treasure. Shaking his head, Shi Yang didn't feel angry. He didn't hurry to start it all over again but tried to control the flame, using his soul and mind to control it. Gradually, he got used to the degree of the flame when he adjusted it, trying to feel it every time he increased the heat. This helped him have a more accurate heat control. This process took him a lot of time. Waiting until he realized that he could control the fiery flame well enough to refine the impurities, he took out a new set of the 3 materials and continued to forge the spirit-gathering ring. When the 3 materials were gradually being melted in the flame, he was able to control the flame well to increase or decrease the power in time. He was extremely careful this time. The fiery flame was increasing little by little. After it reached the right degree, the liquid from the materials melting didn't evaporate while the impurities had been turning into smoke, burning down inside the flame. He felt joy. However, when he continued to increase the heat, the 3 materials continued to be melted. He immediately knew that the temperature was over the 3 materials yielding limit. He tried doing it again. The cultivating materials in this vault were really rich, enough for him to waste. In this vault, he didn't care about his meals or sleep, and wholly focused on his first treasure refining. The spirit-gathering ring was one of the simplest secret treasures, as it required only 3 kinds of materials. He had tried 8 times before he could finally have it done. Eventually, he could eliminate the impurities. After he had fused the 3 materials, he used the cold air from the ice-cold flame. As the cold ice was released, the 3 materials which had been combined in one chunk suddenly condensed. Crack. Due to the intense cold air, the 3 materials cracked down into pieces of brown stone. He failed again. Shi Yang took a deep breath, rubbed his temples and beamed a forced smile. The simplest procedure of refining treasure had wasted much of his energy. Not only did he need to precisely control the heat of the earth flame, but also needed to be patient when he condensed the material, as it required to be carried out in an orderly way, and couldn't be finished in a rush. The more impatient he was, the faster he would fail. This was like the cultivation process of a warrior. Calming down his mind, he proceeded to a new round of refining process. Time flew. After 9 times of failure, inside the vault, he had an absolutely new realization in using cold air to condense the melted materials. Finally, he had successfully refined the 3 materials into the initial shape of the ring. The jade-like transparent ring had undergone so many failures to have this primary shape of a ring. Inscribing the spirit-gathering array, his intention changed. He concentrated attentively on refining the profound qi in his body, turning it into a beam of light pouring into the spirit-gathering ring. Guiding the strange energy of the materials inside the spirit-gathering ring, he started to work like he was painting. Under the guidance of the soul consciousness, he engraved the spirit-gathering array on the spirit-gathering ring. Beams of soul consciousness attached to the spirit-gathering ring. His soul consciousness was moving at extremely fast speed. Each time he had urged this strange energy, his own energy was consumed much. Only a small mistake would chaotically disrupt the path creating by the strange energies. Strange energies in the spirit-gathering ring suddenly ran disorderly like a group of mad horses. A crack echoed from the spirit-gathering ring, and it exploded. Shi Yang had a headache, shaking his head while looking at the broken ring. He mused for a while before starting all over again. He had failed 12 times already. When carving the spirit-gathering array, the energy to be spent would be enormous, which would cause some minor mistake midway. After each mistake, the spirit-gathering array would change accordingly, leading to the explosion of the ring. To portray the array, he had to do it coherently without any interruption in the middle of the process. Also, he must not distract himself to lead to any mistakes, even the tiny ones. Only when he had done everything accurately in carving the complete spirit-gathering array on the ring could he retrieve his soul consciousness. It was simple to say, but really tough to do. He had done the trials continuously, and his failures also came successively. This attack almost had him collapsed, giving him a dispirited feeling as if he could never see the hope of success. The simplest refining had unexpectedly wasted a lot of his energy and will. But he still hadn't succeeded. He now realized that the blacksmith stuff was even more strenuous than Warrior's cultivating process. In the past, he had progressed quickly from the nascent realm, and none of the difficulties he had met were as tough and complicated as this refining. Sitting neatly in the vault, he frowned while looking at the materials he had trashed. Shi Yang then held his breath to concentrate and restore his mind. After adjusting his breath for a while, he felt his mind and qi had been recovered to the peak, and attempted one more time. This time, the embryonic form of the spirit-gathering ring had been created several times faster than his previous trials. Practice made a man perfect, that was surely true. After many times of refining, he didn't fail to make the embryonic form of the ring. Afterward, the spirit-gathering ring was finished. He then used his soul consciousness to urge the strange energies of the 3 materials themselves and guide them to draft the spirit-gathering array. He was completely concentrating this time. He didn't even blink, just kept gazing at the spirit-gathering ring. The thoughts from his soul consciousness turned into light beams, guiding the strange energies running inside the spirit-gathering ring. He was using his soul consciousness to carve the simple array. Moreover, he was receiving constant feedback from the mystical essence of this array. Due to his extreme focus, sweat had covered his entire body not long after he had started. Beads of sweat were rolling down his face from his forehead. He didn't dare get distracted. As if he were entering the bedevilment phase, His mind was wandering in some mysterious realm while his soul consciousness was traveling through the ring. He carefully controlled the strange energies and drew the simple spirit-gathering array. This step was to complete the ring. Drawing it at one go, tinkle. A tinkling sound echoed from the spirit-gathering ring as the ring was radiating an immense silver halo. Inside the ring was a weak suction force that ordinary people couldn't sense. Shi Yang was drenched in sweat, smilingly looking at the silvery spirit-gathering ring. He then took out a medium-quality profound chi crystal and put it in the ring. The spirit-gathering array on the ring was invisible at first, but after the profound chi started to pour into the ring, it gradually appeared, as the small ring had activated its magical suction force to draw the energy. The spirit-gathering spell on the ring had been activated. The ring started to absorb beams of energy inside the profound chi crystal as the spirit-gathering array guided them into the ring. Roughly 1 hour later, a medium-quality profound chi crystal had turned into stone. The energy inside had been absorbed completely. After the ring had absorbed energy from a medium-quality profound chi crystal, it became translucent. Moreover, the silver halo was getting brighter, and could light up the area 10 meters around it. Shi Yang took out a high-quality profound chi crystal and put it in the spirit-gathering ring. He then observed the process where the ring was taking in the energy. Soon, that crystal was drained. Shi Yang smiled, as he felt he had achieved something really good. He put another high-quality profound chi crystal inside the ring. 1 day had passed, and the spirit-gathering ring had absorbed 5 profound chi crystals. The ring became dazzling. Inside the ring, vehement surging energy was rippling. If he released the energy at once, it would be equal to a full-force strike of a disaster realm warrior. Shi Yang felt content. At his first time in refining treasures, after so many failures, he aced it in the end. Chapter 455, Top Dog. Chapter 455, Top Dog. As he had successfully fabricated the spirit-gathering ring, Shi Yang finally gained his first experience in refining. He took some materials for his later refining process and then left the vault. It was hard for the Yang family to restore the peace in the house. Yang Zhuo and the others saw him walking towards them, and couldn't help but ask what he had done during the 2 months he had spent in the vault. He answered them that he had stayed there to perceive his realm, but he didn't mention anything related to refining. It had been 2 months. The stubborn warriors in Barren City had behaved well, as they had paid the fees on time and didn't dare conduct impudent provocations. As Ming Hai's group had been killed, human warriors in Barren City realized that even though Yang Tian Emperor had been confined somewhere, the Yang family still had the power to make them wish to die rather than being tortured alive. Under Shi Yang's brutal deeds, those people didn't dare to remain obstinate, as they were getting back to their normal manners toward the Yangs. The Black Flood Dragon clan hadn't sent any messenger to show their friendliness. This strongest tribe in the seabed seemed not to have any reaction to the great event created by the Yang family in Barren City. Seemed like they weren't about to give their opinions either. The 3 great chiefs of the Silver Shark clan, the Naga tribe, and the Water Scorpion tribe had shown their attitudes, which calmed the Yang family. So, even if they hadn't received any reactions from the Black Flood Dragon clan, they still felt fine. Big uncle, any move up there on the sea? In the great hall of the Yang family, Shi Yang furrowed his brows, asking for the events that happened during the 2 months. According to you, you had sent someone to the Xia family in the Vault of Heaven Sea area. Have they given us an answer? The Xia family has responded. They said that we can leave Barren City and stay in the Vault of Heaven Sea area. Yang Zhuo smiled, Xia Qing who has kept our old friendship in mind. He said that if the Yang family moves to the Vault of Heaven Sea area, he will give us 3 islands so we can stay and cultivate there. Seems like Xia Qing was a good person. Shi Yang nodded. So, what did you answer him? If you hadn't come to Barren City, perhaps we would have left here and stayed in the Vault of Heaven Sea area as Xia Qing who had offered us. Yang Zhuo's face became serious. Anyway, if we want to move to the Vault of Heaven Sea area, I'm not sure if the other fellows of the Endless Sea would track us down and trouble us. We haven't had the good relationship with the Penglai Holy Land and the Martial Spirit Palace. As we're living in Barren City, we're out of their reach, and they can't do anything to us. But if we come to their territory, It's unknown if they would want to deal with us. I replied him that we've solved the problem in Barren City. So, we don't have the intention to go up to the sea for now. Sounds fine, Shi Yang mused for a while, then spoke up again. Big Uncle, I want to visit the Black Flood Dragon clan. I can't ease my mind as long as that Nu Lang keeps silent. Only when we can deal with the Black Flood Dragon clan and made Nu Lang approve our position in Barren City can we stay at ease. Nu Lang's a conservative man. He's hard to deal with. Yang Zhuo's complexion slightly changed. Recently, although the Black Flood Dragon clan hasn't gone against the Yang family, their attitude towards us isn't friendly either. If the Yang family hadn't done many good things for the tribe's undersea, I think Nu Lang wouldn't be content with his own lot. As we've been in the disadvantageous position, together with the troubles given by the Cow family and the Martial Spirit Palace, I don't know what calculation Nu Lang has. Because we don't know his attitude towards this, I want to visit the Black Flood Dragon clan once to solve this problem. Are you sure? Yang Mu wore a solemn face and said seriously, Little Yang, I can't think about how you have the confidence to persuade Nu Lang. Yang Zhu, Yang Shui, and the others also had their suspicions. During the 2 months Shi Yang was staying in the vault, Yang Mu's group had considered it, but they couldn't know why Shi Yang could be so sure about it. They were worried that if Shi Yang went to the Black Flood Dragon clan and had any dispute with them, the members of that clan would trouble him a lot. Although Shi Yang had shown that he was strong enough to deal with the Spirit Realm warriors 2 months ago, members of the Yang family were still worried about him. No matter what, Nu Lang was the strongest warrior of the sea tribes, with a cultivation base at the third sky of Spirit Realm. Even if he were in the Endless Sea, with his realm and cultivation base, everyone would have to fear him. Cao Qiu Dao and Yang Yi Tian could have outstanding competences thanks to the fortuitous encounter. In fact, their actual realm wasn't as high as Nu Lang's. This was the reason why warriors from Endless Sea didn't dare to come and mess up with people undersea. Nu Lang's third sky of Spirit Realm had subdued human warriors, making the ones who had wild schemes towards the seabed content with their lot. Without Nu Lang, perhaps Cao Qiu Dao, Yang Ti Tian, and the others would have soon extended their tentacles to the undersea. Nu Lang wasn't a friendly person, with an ill temper and cruel personality. In these recent years, he had never shown mercy to humans who dared to swagger in the seabed. Once there were humans who provoked the dignity of the sea tribes, Nu Lang would definitely take action to make those wanton humans recognize the fierceness of the sea tribes. Little Yang, if you want to meet Nu Lang, you have to make sure everything's prepared. Yang Zhuo contemplated, and then said solemnly, if you can't be 100% sure, you'd better wait for a while until your great-grandfather comes back from the demon area. It would be much better if you visit Nu Lang at that time. No need to wait, Shi Yang smiled. I'm sure. Because I have the thing Nu Lang has wanted the most. Yang Zhuo's group was surprised. Heaven flame. Shi Yang grinned. A fiery flame burst out from his palm with a scorching heat. In just a blink of an eye, Yang Zhuo and other people had sweat on their bodies. The eyes of Yang Zhuo's group all brightened. Heaven flame. Yang Zhuo was dumbfounded as he was shaking. It isn't the yin cold class ice cold flame, right? What kind of heaven flame is that? Little Yang, is this flame of yours the real heaven flame? He knew about the ice cold flame in Shi Yang's body. However, the ice cold flame had the yin cold features that weren't suitable for refining treasures. Thus, although he knew that Nu Lang was frustrated to find a blazing fiery flame, he didn't think about Shi Yang's ice-cold flame. As Yang Zhuo saw the earth flame with its really high temperature when Shi Yang had just released it, his eyes brightened up immediately. Now, he knew that besides the ice-cold flame, Shi Yang had such an amazing fiery flame that was absolutely suitable for refining treasures. Little Yang, how could you have this thing? Yang Mu was wearing an excited face as he was extremely joyfully. Why do you fella always have the treasures that everybody desperately yearns for? The legend about the heaven flames has been spread out in the endless sea for so many years, but we've rarely seen one. Why you always have those strange living beings? Good karma, Shi Yang smiled. Yang Shui and Li Feng had astonished light flash across their pretty eyes as they were looking at Shi Yang with joy. This is excellent. Yang Zhuo laughed, patting on his shoulder, and then said happily, with the heaven flame, no matter how stubborn Enyu Lang is, he should know well to consider it. Ha ha. No wonder you're afraid of nothing. Turns out, beside the ice-cold flame, you have this kind of a heaven flame. Don't worry, smiled Shiyang. Everybody nodded with a bright complexion. Where's the Black Flood Dragon clan? Yeah, Li Feng has visited there once. She knows the Black Flood Dragon clan. Just let her take you there. Yang Zhuo rolled his eyes and suddenly gave his suggestion. Traces of being astonished crossed Li Feng's beautiful eyes. It was like her elegant face was glowing as she agreed with pleasure. I've been to the Black Flood Dragon clan. If you want to go there, I will guide you. Ha ha. I'm not sure what attitude those Black Flood Dragon clan fellows would wear if they know you have what Enyu Lang needs. That's good. When will you set off? Yang Zhuo smiled. Well, I'm free anyway, so we can go now. For the time being, I think there would be nothing big happening in Barren City. What do you think? All right. Yang Zhuo nodded, shifted his line of sight to Li Feng, and then spoke up again with an odd face. Little Feng, I give Shiyang to you. Don't bully him along the way. How can I dare? Li Feng giggled, her pupils sparking with her high spirit. It's the best if he doesn't bully me. He's much more dangerous than I am. Even if I want to bully him, I'm not able to do so. Yeah, in short, you have to behave. Yang Zhuo arched his eyebrows, laughing. We should go. Shiyang didn't linger, reminded Yang Zhuo something, then left with Li Feng. After they had left the Yang family, he didn't hurry to leave the barren city but visited a tavern in the city. Boy, are you coming for a drink again? Last time you said that you're a member of the Yang family. Did you lie to us? The storekeeper remembered him, greeting him with a smile. I heard that the Yangs have a top dog who killed Ming Hai, Yang Feng, and the other two. If you are one of the Yangs, you have to know him, eh? Haha, if he comes to our shop, I will give him free wine. What? Shiyang was surprised, smiled. Why you will give him free wine? Barren City has restored its order, laughed the waiter. If Ming Hai and his men didn't die, we don't know how the Barren City would have looked like in the future. Lucky us that they died. We can live in peace now. Yeah, it's best if the Yang family still controls Barren City. Ming Hai, this bastard only wanted to seek the temporary benefits. They couldn't manage the city. Bring me 10 bottles of good wine. Here you go. The waiter replied to him cheerily. Shiyang, you drank here last time? Li Feng chuckled, as her shining eyes scanned through the tavern. Yes. After a while, the waiter brought him 10 bottles of wine. Shiyang put them in his storage ring, but he didn't pay. Instead, he smiled and said, I'm not going to pay this time. Later on, you don't need to pay revenue tax fee in Barren City. If someone comes to collect the fee, told them I said that. 8. The shopkeeper and the waiter shouted in awe. Swaying his hand, Shiyang turned into a beam of light and flew out of Barren City. I'm that top dog you said. The shopkeeper and the waiter were shaken as their eyes were lit up. Chapter 456. The Strongest Warrior. Chapter 456. The Strongest Warrior. Deep inside the seabed of the Dark Water Territory stood the black extinct volcano ranges. Each extinct volcano colossally towered the seabed, just like rows of sharp swords jutted up to the sea surface. It was where the Black Flood Dragon clan dwelled. It was unknown why the extinct volcano ranges had sunk deep into the ground. Each volcano was thousands of meters high. Situated on the mountainsides and the summits of those volcanoes were buildings constructed from some kind of ink-black stone. At first glance, it looked like those buildings were made from black iron, very sharp with distinguishing features. Rumors said that the ancestor of the Black Flood Dragon clan was a level 10 Black Flood Dragon, whose supernatural power could penetrate the sky and destroy the earth. Very terrifying. That level 10 demonic beast Black Flood Dragon had mated with human females and bred many human-beast hybrids. They are the Black Flood Dragon clan's members. The Black Flood Dragon clan has the Black Flood Dragon and human bloodline. They have dark, sharp horns on their heads, and have the ability to transform into the half-monster shape. In the seawater, Li Feng pointed at the place in front of them and explained to Shiyang. Since the Black Flood Dragon clan members aren't the real Black Flood Dragons, they don't have the sturdy physique of the dragon, but they have the intellect that the Black Flood Dragons lack. Members of the Black Flood Dragon clan get along well with the real Black Flood Dragons and consider them their best allies. See, we can find the Black Flood Dragon beasts inside those extinct volcanoes. What? Yeah, the Black Flood Dragon clan and the Black Flood Dragons can live in harmony because they share the same bloodlines. Usually, the average level of the Black Flood Dragons is level 6. Although they're small in number, they're the overlords of the beasts undersea. They aren't afraid of anything. In the middle of the extinct volcanoes, I think there are even level 8 Black Flood Dragons. A level 8 Black Flood Dragon's as strong as a Spirit Realm warrior. Nu Lang's a third sky of Spirit Realm warrior. So, who's stronger, the level 8 Black Flood Dragon or him? Nu Lang. That level 8 Black Flood Dragon is Nu Lang's associated beast. Since Nu Lang was born, he has had his blood interlinked with it. Li Feng frowned and explained to him with a soft tone. A part of the Black Flood Dragon clan's population would interlink their blood with the Black Flood Dragons. Once they could form the soul and blood connection with the beast, they can become its master. Then, they can thrive together, humans and beasts. In this association, they have been living together from birth, and their lives are connected by a subtly mysterious connection that we can't explain. So, what makes it different from the beasts we have tamed? Of course, it's different. This association is formed with lives. If the Black Flood Dragon dies, the clansman who's its master will die, too. Correspondingly, if the Black Flood Dragon clan's member, who is the beast's master, dies, the beast interlinked with him will die together. Li Feng held a serious face. This association's really magical. I heard that it could fuse the master and the beast into one to promote their best combined power. There aren't many members of the Black Flood Dragon clan can connect with the Black Flood Dragons. However, they are all the key members of the clan. Among the sea tribes, the Black Flood Dragon clan's small. In Endless Sea, I heard that there are just some members of the Black Flood Dragon clan living there. However, each clansman of the Black Flood Dragon clan's more excellent than the other sea tribes members at the same realm. With the aid of the Black Flood Dragon beasts, they become even more intimidating. Shi Yang was dumbstruck for a while before he could speak up again. So, the Black Flood Dragon clan's members with the Black Flood Dragon beasts can have the superior power over the other warriors? It's true, Li Feng nodded solemnly. So, you have to think it over again. Nu Lang has the cultivation base at the third sky of Spirit Realm, and he also has a level 8 Black Flood Dragon beast. Can you imagine how formidable his real competence is? Shi Yang was shocked. So, Nu Lang's even more dangerous than Kai Yang and Bo Zun? It's hard to tell before engaging in a fight with him. Li Feng still wore a serious complexion, mused, then spoke again. I think, if Nu Lang fights with Kai Yang and Bo Zun, his chance to win will be a little bit higher. The reason why Cao Qiu Dao and Yang Yitian didn't want to provoke the sea tribes even when they were at their peak state was because of Nu Lang. According to you, Nu Lang's the strongest warrior both undersea and on the sea of the Endless Sea, isn't he? People living on the seabed think so. No matter it be the sea tribes dwelling on the seabed or humans living in Barren City, they all think that Nu Lang's the best warrior with real fame and competence, and Cao Qiu Dao and Yang Yitian aren't his matches. Fortunately, the sea tribes don't have good secret treasures. Otherwise, I think even people on the sea would consider him the strongest warrior of the entire Endless Sea, said Li Feng. Shi Yang's face slightly changed. My great-grandfather was really brave that year. He talked again after a long while of silence. As he dared to provoke a man like that, I think my great-grandfather has the biggest guts in the Endless Sea. Haha, can't believe his real competence is at the true God realm. Nu Lang's really intimidating. No wonder why the unruly Yin Hui has to bow to him. Of course, if Nu Lang voices his opinions, the members of the Silver Shark clan, the Naga tribe, and the Water Scorpion tribe have to obey his words. All members of the sea tribes acknowledge Nu Lang's existence as what guarantees the peace for the sea tribes. As long as Nu Lang stays well, the Endless Sea's warriors won't have the courage to plan anything on the sea tribes. Li Feng giggled while looking at him. Now you know how imposing Enyu Lang is. Later on, when you meet Enyu Lang, you should behave. He isn't Bao Wen or Bao Ku. Even if you can use the external force to reach the spirit realm cultivation base, you're no match for him. Okay, I will be more careful. Shi Yang caressed his nose and nodded reluctantly. Before they had got here, he actually didn't overestimate Enyu Lang, as he thought that he would have the power as strong as Kai Yang or Bo Zun at most. However, from Li Feng's explanation, he knew that Enyu Lang perhaps was more dangerous than the other two. This made him more cautious. Since his debut, the strongest warrior he had ever encountered was the Demon King Kai Yang. In Yuan Lu Si area, when Kai Yang had struck out, he had revealed his imposing power, which made Shi Yang remember him for a long time. Even now, when he recalled the heaven-shaking deeds of Kai Yang, he still felt cold inside, as he knew that even if he could borrow all the energies, he couldn't gain the upper hand against Kai Yang. Due to his clear recognition of this, after he had entered his sky realm, and when the ice-cold flame, the earth flame, and the Holy Spirit God had all recovered, he still didn't dare to go to Huan Luo Si area to find Kai Yang and take revenge. He wasn't an impulsive person. If he weren't sure about something, he wouldn't do it recklessly. Compared to the peak warriors, he still lacked something, but he also had some advantages. His mysterious martial spirit. The martial spirit he got when he had first entered this strange world had an immense ability, which could greatly boost his speed to break the bottleneck while entering a new realm. He knew what he lacked now was time and practice. If he had more time, he could enter a brand new realm in just a short while. One day, he would be stronger than Kai Yang, and he could finish that grudge. He had this confidence. Well, Enyu Lang's really dangerous. If you help him refine rare treasures this time, he will become the overlord of the entire world. Li Feng held a wry smile. No one knows if Enyu Lang would stay still undersea. Currently, the situation of the Endless Sea is too complicated. If he wants to stir up the Endless Sea, not many people can stop him. Shi Yang arched his brow. This was also a problem. Not only the Black Flood Dragon clan could live undersea, if there was a suitable place on the sea, they could also live there as well. Enyu Lang had the absolute ruling position in the sea tribes. If he had dark ambitions towards the Endless Sea, he could directly lead the hotshots of the sea tribes to enter the sea area, taking the chance while the Endless Sea was currently in chaos. This would be an immense advantage to the sea tribes. It had happened before. Legend said that the sea tribes had united and had a great war with the warriors of the Endless Sea in an attempt to take a sea area in the Endless Sea thousands of years ago. Although they lost that war under the union of the human warriors, they had caused a great loss to the elite force of the warriors in the Endless Sea. After that war, the sea tribes had got back to the seabed and stayed there for several thousands of years without provoking people on the sea anymore. But now, the sea tribes had an earth-shaking character like Enyu Lang, who could make all of the tribes undersea believe in him. If he rose his hand and planned something to make use of the chaotic situation in the Endless Sea for the benefit of all sea tribes, Yin Hui, Li Shuo, and Bao Ku would be willing to go and fight together with him. Forget it. The Endless Sea's messed up enough. Moreover, it's not sure that the sea tribes would be our misery. Contemplating for a while, Shi Yang comforted himself. Up there, we have Kai Yang, Bo Zun, Cao Qiu Dao and Yang Yitian. Perhaps my great-grandfather would return soon. We have so many strong warriors up there. Even if Enyu Lang goes up to the sea, it's difficult for him to control the situation. At most, he could only make the Endless Sea more disorderly. Having heard that, Li Feng could only agree with him. They were talking along the way. Not long after that, they showed themselves in front of the extinct volcanoes. Members of the Yang family from Barren City would like to meet Patriarch Enyu Lang. Li Feng slightly bowed, then pitched her voice. A 30-meter-tall black flood dragon came out of an extinct volcano. Its whole body was covered in black iron scales. The dragon had big horns on its head, with the eyes as big as a fist, flaring up with a horrendous light. That black flood dragon was a level 7 beast. After it came out from the extinct volcano, its giant red pupils gazed at Shi Yang and Li Feng cruelly. There seated a Sky Realm member of the Black Flood Dragon clan on the head of that Black Flood Dragon. He had humanoid form accompanied with a half-a-meter black horn on his head. This dark-skinned man looked at Shi Yang's group coldly and then mocked, "Juniors from the Yangs, what kind of qualification you have to ask for meeting up with our patriarch? Even if Yang Tian Emperor came here himself, I'm not sure our patriarch would like to meet him. What do you depend on for your request?" "Depends on my heaven flame." Shi Yang grinned, then extended his arm. The earth flame burst out. Its flame was flickering mystically in the water. The seawater had constantly been evaporated, but the flame was still increasing in ferocity, not even affected a bit by the water. Chapter 457, Famous Reputation Spreads Far and Wide. Chapter 457, Famous Reputation Spreads Far and Wide. The eyes of the man from the Black Flood Dragon clan brightened. Even Yin Hui and Li Shuo knew that Enyu Lang wanted to refine something. As a member of the tribe, of course, he knew it. The seabed didn't have a fiery mount of flames. As Enyu Lang had been worrying about the fiery flame, he was really hot-tempered recently. Since he had failed in refining many times, many clansmen of the Black Flood Dragon clan had received lessons from him. Seeing the fiery flame on Shi Yang's palm, this man was moved. He then changed his attitude. "Is that a real heaven flame?" He looked at the earth flame on Shi Yang's palm and opened his mind to sense, and was scared as a result. The heaven flames were the most mysterious fiery flames in the world. They had their own consciousness and lives. As their heat was much hotter than the earth flames, they were the best flames to refine treasures. A warrior who had the firmament flame, if he wanted, could become an excellent blacksmith, and earn respect from all other warriors. The high-temperature fiery flame that Shi Yang was showing off couldn't be hidden. Although he was hundreds of meters away from Shi Yang, he could still feel dry and hot. "I think you have the answer whether or not it's the heaven flame." Shi Yang calmly retrieved the earth flame and grinned. "Your patriarch needs guys like me the most at this moment. If I help him, it will be no problem for him to refine rare treasures." "Yeah, I think you can go and report now, right?" Many members of the Black Flood Dragon clan were poking out from the sharp buildings one after another, looking at Shi Yang with a surprised face. Although Shi Yang's countenance was indifferent, he was shocked inside. There were around 70 or 80 members of the Black Flood Dragon clan revealing themselves from the extinct volcanoes. Each of them had the massive aura. The worst of them were at the Earth Realm or the Nirvana Realm, while Sky Realm warriors were everywhere. Everybody said that the Black Flood Dragon clan was the strongest tribe among the tribes living on the seabed. Each member of this clan had a remarkable power with exquisite cultivation base. Their reputation was true indeed. "Sure, I'm going to report now." That man didn't dare to hesitate more, patting his Black Flood Dragon, and then turned into a black light, flying away. From the extinct volcanoes, the people of the Black Flood Dragon clan were gazing at Shi Yang and Li Feng with cold eyes, silently assessing them. "You are Shi Yang?" A thin Black Flood Dragon clan man with pockmarked face eyed him for a while, then raised his voice to ask. Shi Yang smiled and nodded. The members of the Black Flood Dragon clan looked shaken as the light in their eyes got more intense. During this time, among the tribes living in the sea, Shi Yang's reputation was spread far and wide. He had used his Sky Realm cultivation base to hurt Bao Wen and make Bao Ku approve his identity in Barren City. Even Yin Hui and Li Shuo agreed not to interfere with the business in Barren City anymore. As he got the approval from the leaders of the three clans, his name was pushed to an outstanding position. All the Sea Tribes members knew that besides Yang Tian Emperor, the Yangs had another new prominent young man, who was even more arrogant than Yang Tian Emperor, with an even better natural endowment. The name of Shi Yang had spread everywhere on the seabed. They didn't expect that the visitor would be this kid. The Black Flood Dragon clan's members were shaken as they were assessing him in silence to see which dangerous features he had. Li Feng felt quite uncomfortable under the eyes of the Black Flood Dragon clan's members. "Shi Yang, you should be careful. Although Enyu Lang's reputation isn't bad, you still have to pay attention. If Enyu Lang wants to attack you after you have helped him refine treasures, I think it's hard for you to escape." "Yes. I'll be careful." As Enyu Lang was the patriarch of the Black Flood Dragon clan, the #1 warrior of the Sea Tribes, he held the highest position in the eyes of the Sea Tribes members. People had appraised Enyu Lang to be good and sincere, and that he wasn't deceitful or a sinister person. Usually, his conduct was straightforward and upright. He wouldn't do anything unacceptable. But still, he was a member of the Sea Tribes. The Sea Tribes members had always been guarding against the warriors on the sea. If Enyu Lang considered him a future harm to the Sea Tribes, he would kill Shi Yang first. It wasn't impossible strangling Shi Yang when he was still in his cradle to solve the big trouble for the Sea Tribes. Also, if Enyu Lang really did that, the members of the Sea Tribes would never spread any bad things about him. Well, in short, everything should be done with care. I'm afraid Enyu Lang would do that. Li Feng was worried. That year, our housemaster had come here and created an intense situation with Enyu Lang. I'm afraid Enyu Lang still holds that grudge. Don't provoke him. Just get things done and leave. I know how to do it. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Still, I need to take a little risk here. The Black Flood Dragon Clan's man who had just left returned quickly. He gestured Shi Yang to follow him. Don't enter the Black Flood Dragon Clan, just stay out there. Shi Yang told Li Feng and stepped in the territory of the Black Flood Dragon Clan. Under the guidance of the Black Flood Dragon Clan's man, he flew to the mountain pass of the extinct volcano where Enyu Lang dwelled. Extinct volcanoes glided one by one under his body. Each of them was an imposing existence that frightened people. Although he couldn't use soul consciousness to sense, Shi Yang knew that there would be dormant Black Flood Dragon beasts inside those volcanoes. Only the giant demonic beasts like the Black Flood Dragons could emit such a tremendous aura. There were at least 10 Black Flood Dragons standing on the extinct volcano beneath him. The worst of them was the level 6 Black Flood Dragon. Most of them were at level 7. The level 7 Black Flood Dragons were much stronger than human Sky Realm warriors. Especially when they were in the water, they had the ability to control the water currents. Sharp mouths with brute force, they were the most formidable beasts in the seabed. Having sensed for a while, Shi Yang was frightened as he had a deeper knowledge about the Black Flood Dragon clan. The power of this clan was more intimidating than that of the Cow family or the Martial Spirit Palace in Endless Sea. Moreover, there were the other tribes undersea like the Silver Shark clan, the Water Scorpion tribe, and the Naga tribe. Once they got out of the water and launched their attack on the human warriors, the result of this war could be seen even before it started. All of a sudden, he was worrying whether or not his decision to help Enyu Lang refine treasures was a correct move. Here we are. The Patriarch asked you to go there alone. The man of the Black Flood Dragon clan took Shi Yang to the cone of an extinct volcano, pointed down to gesture that Shi Yang should descend and meet Enyu Lang alone. Thank you. Putting aside the worries in his mind, Shi Yang held his breath and concentrated his mind, discreetly alert while slowly lowering down the mountain pass. Around 15 minutes later, he landed at the foot of the extinct volcano. Unexpectedly, this area was lit up brightly. Countless shining crystals were inlaid on the mountain flank to illuminate the area. Those crystals could even light up the darkest areas of this mountain. Lying in the middle of the area was a massive scorching magma pond. However, there was no magma, but piles of scarlet flame crystals inside it. The scarlet flame crystal was the most scorching ore. With the urge from energy, it could burst out a blazing flame. Each piece of the scarlet flame crystal could provide an enormous amount of energy from flame. Numerous scarlet flame crystals filled the magma pond. While there was no urge from any energy, those crystals just radiated a red, hot light. Next to the magma pond were all kinds of materials to refine treasures. There were some diamonds, cold iron, flowing gold sand and star jades. Shi Yang was startled at first glance. There were many materials for refining treasures, and each of them was precious. They were piled around the magma pond. Some of them were so scarce that even the Yang family couldn't collect them. The other Sky Realm warriors could go crazy seeing those materials. Even on the Endless Sea, there were many materials that they could only see by chance once in hundreds of years. Those materials filled the pond, and under the shining light of the bright crystals, were reflecting charming halo. Precursor Enyu Lang does have a lot of raw materials. You've been storing a lot of materials like these. I wonder what kind of rare, earth-shaking treasures you want to refine. Shi Yang took a deep breath while observing here and there, smiled and said. Enyu Lang hadn't shown himself yet. However, Shi Yang knew that Enyu Lang was right here, but he had hidden his aura to seclude his whereabouts. This made Shi Yang unable to find him. Since he had arrived the mountain foot, even if he didn't see Enyu Lang, he could sense someone watching him. While he was eyeing the refining materials, Enyu Lang should be staying somewhere secretly, watching each move of his to guess his realm and characteristics. Kid, you have big guts. As you dare to come here alone, aren't you afraid that I will kill you? A boorish voice came from the mountain foot, then reverberated unceasingly between the rocky walls, shattering some pieces of rock. Shi Yang could only feel the rumbling sound in his ears. It had even entered his brain and affected his sea of consciousness, as it was shaken all of a sudden. His mind shivered. He immediately retrieved his soul consciousness to ensure that it wouldn't get affected. The 5 dormant devils in the sea of consciousness seemed to tremble due to this noise before they could gradually calm down. In the swamp area of that exotic land, the 5 devils had devoured many hollow spirits. Since then, they had started to evolve. This process had been started for a long time. However, it seemed not to be finished yet. Shi Yang was a little bit disappointed as he found the 5 devils didn't wake up. What should I fear? Shi Yang smiled, looking at the scarlet flame crystals in the magma pond. With Precursor Enyu Lang's moral standing, you'll not take action against a junior like me. Furthermore, I came with goodwill this time. I think Precursor Enyu Lang should be treating me well. Kid, do you really have the heaven flame? Enyu Lang's voice arose again. If I didn't have the heaven flame, I'd definitely not dare to come here. He extended his arms, and the earth flame burst out. As the fiery flame came out, the scarlet flame crystals in the magma pond were ignited, releasing the furious flame up to the sky. The flame immediately covered the whole mountain foot. When the scarlet flame crystals met the fiery flame energy, they could blaze up better. As a type of heaven flame, the earth flame could incite the potential of the scarlet flame crystals. The temperature at the mountain foot had rocketed to an extreme level in just a flash. It's really the heaven flame. Enyu Lang shouted, showed himself and arrived in front of Shi Yang. Chapter 458, See Clearly. Chapter 458, See Clearly. He was a middle-aged man, around 2 meters tall. The man had a dark skin and chiseled face, accompanied by a divine light shooting out of his eyes. He wasn't angry but still looked full of prestige. He came to Shi Yang, threw him a look and asked, "Are you Shi Yang?" "Yes." "Not bad," Enyu Lang nodded then snorted, "You could defeat the brothers Bao Wen and Bao Ku with your Sky Realm cultivation base. Seems the Yang family has another dangerous warrior. Yang Tian Emperor has a good destiny that he has a brat like you to fill his slot when he is being confined in the demon area." Shi Yang smiled and didn't say anything. "You came here to help me refine treasures, which will make me approve the overlord position of the Yang family in Barren City, right?" "Yes. It's not a big deal. As long as you can please me, I can promise you that." "Thank you. I don't like people watching me when I'm refining treasures. You tell your heaven flame, and then I'll imprison you for the time being." His visage slightly changed, but eventually, Shi Yang agreed, "All right." Then, he contacted the earth flame, asking it to pay attention to Enyu Lang and help him to refine treasures. The earth flame answered that it understood the matter. As Enyu Lang saw the heaven flame floating above the scarlet flame crystals, releasing the burning fiery flame, he suddenly snatched it. Dark halo rippled out from above and covered Shi Yang in a flash. Inside the dark light shell, Shi Yang couldn't see anything out there, and his soul conscious couldn't see through that dark light. It was like he was being restrained in a pitch-black prison. His sight, sense of hearing and touch, and his soul consciousness were all covered. Just with his first move, the third sky of Spirit Realm Warrior could frighten Shi Yang. Now he knew that he couldn't deal with a character at such level at the moment. Anyway, he had thought that Enyu Lang would have confined him before he had come here, so he wasn't surprised. Staying inside this black halo, he sat down cross-legged, concentrated his mind and let his thoughts sink into the halo of memories. It was the entire life experience of a spirit-level blacksmith. During this time, whenever he had free time, he would sink his mind into it, trying his best to comprehend the refining methods. Flows of thought moved in there, projecting some scenes of the precious refining process. He was making progress quietly, as he had a deeper knowledge about refining treasure's method and techniques day by day. Time flew. It was unknown how long he had been in there. All of a sudden, he realized that the dark halo covering him had disappeared. Light shone again. Shi Yang opened his eyes looking forward. He found that all the scarlet flame crystals inside the magma pond had been burnt into ashes. The heaven flame bobbing above the magma pond sent him a message. He has refined a trident by melting precious metals and ores. Although he didn't use any formations or spells, it's cumbersome. Such a weapon is very extraordinary. Shi Yang nodded slightly. The earth flame turned into a bunch of flames and disappeared into the blood vein ring. He nosed out some signs, then shifted his gaze at Enyu Lang, who was sitting above the magma pond. He smiled. Congratulations. Enyu Lang pouted his lips, then waved his hand and said, Go. The Black Flood Dragon clan won't interfere the business in Barren City. All stays the same. Precursor Enyu Lang, Shi Yang took a deep breath, didn't leave but smiled and asked, At present, the Endless Sea's a big mess. The Dark Dwellers and the Demon Dwellers are swaggering across the Yuan Luo and Kiara Sea areas, fighting against human warriors of the Endless Sea. The current situation's nothing but a deadlock. What do you think about it? What does it matter to me? Enyu Lang gave him a supercilious look and answered him impatiently. Who do you think will win at the end? The Dark Dwellers, the Demon Dwellers, or the warriors of the Endless Sea? Shi Yang was patient. Your cultivation base is exquisite, and your vision's wide. I guess you would have a thorough analysis of this case. Would you mind sharing it with me? I don't care who will win. As long as they are not going to stir up my seabed, I don't care. Enyu Lang snorted. As if he wasn't interested in the activities above the sea, he coldly looked at Shi Yang. Kid, you've been probing. What do you want? Do you have the intention to go up there? Shi Yang darkened his face and asked him coldly. Light sparked and vanished in Enyu Lang's eyes. He sneered, shook his head but didn't say anything. If I were you, the moment when the Endless in chaos, I wouldn't be content with my lot on the seabed. Shi Yang said, I would keep close track of the situation up there, and wait for the best chance to come. When the two tigers are biting each other, I could launch my attack, or I could always join one side and destroy the other to take the upper hand. Cruel light flared up from Enyu Lang's eyes. You little brat, do you think I would do that? Shaking his head, Shi Yang said, I don't know. But if I were you, I couldn't rest my mind with the current situation. Anyway, the Endless Sea's still a big mess, while the seabed is steadily peaceful. As the once-in-a-blue-moon chance is right in front of you, if I were you, my mind couldn't help but be moved. Enyu Lang stayed calm, didn't say anything. Goodbye, Shi Yang clasped his fist, greeted him, if you want to join any side, I hope you will consider the Yang family. Currently, although we are still weak, I think you'll soon see our Yang family's real competence. Then, he left following the way he had come without waiting for Enyu Lang's answer. Enyu Lang's eyes sparked an ominous light, coldly looking at Shi Yang who was fading away. All of a sudden, he burst out laughing. This kid has big guts and great ambition. Unfortunately, his power's still small. If Yang Tian Emperor came himself, I would still consider, but you aren't eligible, kid. Of course, Shi Yang couldn't hear his words. 3 spirit realm warriors of the Black Flood Dragon clan came out from the dark. They were looking at Shi Yang disappearing with astounded faces. Patriarch, this kid does have big guts. He dared to come here alone and even probe us to ask for joining us. Later on, he would become a character in the Endless Sea. Perhaps he could be like Cao Qiu Dao and Yang Tian Emperor, who could rule his own territory with force. A fat man from the Black Flood Dragon clan mused and said. Enyu Lang nodded. He has wild schemes, and he seems not to care about the others. He doesn't respect the rules or care about races. This kid isn't afraid of receiving insults from others when he proposed to join with the sea tribes. In the eyes of people on the sea, the ones who join with other races are the ones who dare to do any cruel things. I didn't expect that he has this thought and came here himself. I'm surprised. When Yang Tian Emperor went to meet you that year, You wanted to join up with the Yang family and plan something toward the endless sea. Yang Tian Emperor had denied your proposal. He said that the two races couldn't get along well and that they couldn't exist in the same sea area. Yang Tian Emperor is racist. He believes that besides humanity, the other races are all aliens, and they're not eligible to live with humans. The short, fat man of the Black Flood Dragon clan had his eyebrows slammed together as he snorted. Yang Tian Emperor was so stubborn when he said that as long as he's still in the endless sea, the sea tribes won't have a chance to leave the seabed and earn a living on the sea. Now that he's confined in the demon area, he can't even protect himself. And the Yangs suddenly have a brat that doesn't care about common sense. It's strange. But it's a pity that he isn't the head of the Yang family. His cultivation base is also weak. Otherwise, our patriarch could consider this business. Right, said another spirit realm warrior of the Black Flood Dragon clan. Human race doesn't want us. They think that we should live in the seabed. Anyway, they don't know that the sea tribes have many tribes. In fact, we also aim at the rich lands on the sea and we do want to reside there. No matter it's Cao Qiudao, Yang Yi Tian or the leaders of other forces, they are all affected by this preconception. They all consider our sea tribes aliens, so it's hard for them to befriend with us. This kid is somehow special, indeed. Nu Lang mused then talked, too bad his realm isn't high enough. Meanwhile, the Yang family is not as strong as it used to be. We will just ignore him then. Patriarch, he said that the Yang family would come back to the endless sea. I think there's some information we haven't gotten to know yet. Yes, this brat is that arrogant, so maybe he has some backup. Has Yang Tian Emperor escaped his restraint in demon area? Nu Lang's pupils shrank. He frowned. Why do we have to care about them that much? Just stay here, and we aren't going to interfere their business. Wait until they all engage in war and then we will see what we can do. This is once in a blue moon chance. Although our ancestors couldn't achieve big in their lives, perhaps we can. The other three strong warriors also got incited, as their eyes brightened. The sea tribes will not be content with their lots. Seems like we have to make our decision soon. After Shi Yang got out of the Black Flood Dragon clan, he looked at Li Feng with a stiff face and said, Nu Lang has big ambition. He will definitely not want to stay on the seabed and watch the fun. He's waiting for the chance to take the strong warriors of the sea tribes to attack the endless sea. Maybe he's waiting for both sides to engage in war, said Li Feng. Possibly. Shi Yang wore a solemn face, looking at the territory of the Black Flood Dragon clan, then sighed. The Black Flood Dragon clan is really intimidating. Added with the Water Scorpion tribe, the Silver Shark clan, and the Naga tribe, this force isn't weaker than the Dark Dwellers or the Demon Dwellers. They even have more advantages than the Dark Dwellers and the Demon Dwellers. They can attack or withdraw at ease. If the situation is not going on the desired track, they can always hide in the seabed. It's tough for us to deal with them undersea. Seems like the situation of the endless sea is getting more complicated. Li Feng beamed a wry smile. We can't stay on the seabed for long. Intelligence sent to Barren City is too slow. We're almost isolated, and we can't get a good grasp of the endless sea situation as fast as we want. Shi Yang contemplated for a while then spoke up again with serious visage. We have to go back to the endless sea earlier. Just let some stay at Barren City to control the place. Only if we go to the endless sea can we have chances to talk to the members of the demon area. I'm not able to make this decision, Li Feng shook her head. I'm going to talk to Big Uncle. 3 days later, Shi Yang came back to Barren City. When he saw Yang Zhuo, he said immediately, we can't always stay in Barren City. We need to go out. Why? Nu Lang has the wild schemes to invade the endless sea. He's waiting for a good chance. If we can't join Nu Lang, we can only spread this news as soon as possible. Some people will pay attention to him then. Chapter 459, Entourage of 8. Chapter 459, Entourage of 8. The most fearful thing is still to happen. Yang Zhuo's face darkened and stiffened. He breathed out cold air and then shook his head. The sea tribes always had their dark ambitions towards the endless sea. However, The warriors above the endless sea always stood guarding against them. Moreover, thanks to Cao Qiu Dao, Yang Yi Tian, and your great-grandfather, the sea tribes haven't done anything just yet. But at present, since the endless sea's in chaos, Nu Lang has seen the opportunity once in a lifetime. Of course, he would try to stir everything up. Big uncle, you've already known that the sea tribes wouldn't be content with their lot, right? Of course, they won't be content with their lots. Yang Zhuo's face was solemn. Thousands of years ago, the sea tribes had taken actions, but stopped after that big loss. That was a big and painful lesson to them. It made them know the big price to be paid to get to the land above the sea. After that battle, more than half of the elite force of the sea tribes was lost. Some small tribes even got extinguished. Afterward, they decided to withdraw completely. Thousands of years have gone, but they hadn't rebelled even once. But it's different now. Yes, it's different now. The Dark Dwellers and the Demon Dwellers have come to the Endless Sea, and your great-grandfather's imprisoned in the demon area. At this moment, if the sea tribes have ambitions, they would try to fulfill the goal their ancestors had set thousands of years ago. Yang Zhuo sighed grudgingly. It's a general trend. Seems like no force can stop the sea tribes. Thus, if we continue staying in Barren City, it's not good at all. Hey, I'll arrange it like this. In the coming time, the Yangs will revive. We will leave a part here on the seabed, and the others will come up to the sea in groups. Xia Qing who soon sent some messenger here. He said that if the Yang family comes to the sea, we can ask for help from the Xia family. Currently, Xia Qing who is the overlord of a part of the Endless Sea. If we have a good relationship with them, even if we have to deal with the Martial Spirit Palace or the Penglai Holy Land, we still have time to solve the dispute. Yang Zhuo thought for a while then spoke to him. Don't overthink. You should rest for some days. I'll arrange this. Then, we're going back to Endless Sea. Great. Shi Yang went to the vault. Looking at that radiant piles of materials in front of him, he felt grudging and tired all of a sudden. Although he had progressed fast in cultivating, he was still far behind the strong warriors like Cao Qiu Dao or Yang Yi Tian. Kai Yang, Bo Zun, and the Yama kings were all earth-shaking warriors. Currently, he couldn't fight with them. And now came Nu Lang, an ambitious and tyrannically strong warrior. In front of them, he could see his power was much weaker. I have to reach a higher level as soon as possible. Taking a deep breath, he sat down neatly in the vault and started to think about how to increase his power faster. However, it was tough for any warrior in Sky Realm to thrive more. Each time the cultivation base leaped up, it required abundant profound chi and a flash of realization of the realm. He didn't need to worry about the profound chi. With the mysterious martial spirit, it was simple to have more profound chi. Killing more people, and absorbing the negative energies from the fiercest battlefield, it was easy to get more profound chi. However, gaining realization regarding the realm had no way to be found. He had to experience and observe the powers of earth and firmament to have a chance for a good grasp of the mystical features of the most inner essence in there. No one could help him with this requirement. If he couldn't comprehend his realm, no matter how much profound chi he could accumulate, it was useless, and couldn't help him to increase his strength. Shi Yang frowned, looking at the cultivating materials on the ground and the 2 rings on his fingers. Light sparkled from his eyes as his mind flickered fast. He eyed the blood vein ring. Suddenly, his eyes brightened. It had been long since he had last attacked the wall of force inside the blood vein ring. The ways to use the 2 most evil, eccentric powers were the rampage and the life and death seal. He got them from the blood vein ring when he had broken through new realms. When his power had reached a certain level, if he used all of his power to attack the wall inside the blood vein ring, it could work. At present, he had actually entered the sky realm, which meant his cultivation base wasn't bad. It was time to attack the blood vein ring again. Making up his mind, he didn't hesitate. He quieted down his mind and then started to gather the power of the entire body. Profound chi in the chi ancient tree at his lower abdomen was urged, moving rapidly in his veins and tendons. Wherever the profound chi traveled through under his urge, it brought together the energy of that organ to mix with it and help him increase his power. Gradually, The profound chi was like a torrential stream running in his body. He felt a pain in his meridians, as he could feel his profound chi accelerating to a terrifying level. Complete focus. His chi condensed into a bunch of light beams, guiding the enormous energy in his body to turn into a column of fierce light, banging hard on the energy wall inside the blood vein ring. Thump. An odd echo resounded from the energy barrier inside the blood vein ring. It seemed a layer or membrane had been poked through. A strange memory electric current stormed out, flooding his brain. The red halo of the blood vein ring covered the entire vault. Bizarre, vague scenes were projected inside the red halo. It was some area on the seabed, covered with bones of beasts. Five-colored seawater was rumbling. The beast skeletons there were all dozens of meters tall, even taller than the main building of the Yang family. This was the first time he had ever seen such giant beast skeletons. Even the Black Flood Dragon he saw in the Black Flood Dragon clan was one grade smaller than the beasts in this scene. There was a 300-meter dragon skeleton. The bones were numerous, and dense like a small mountain. This was really dreadful to watch for ordinary people. A strange halo was twinkling inside that massive skeleton. In the vague halo, he could see a coffin. Laro Luo's dark body, one of the bloodthirstiest entourage of 8. A stirring thought shot out, flooding his brain. From the blood vein ring, a current of strange memory electric had ambushed him, unceasingly sending him thoughts along with the scenes appearing in the blood vein ring. That bizarre memory electric current seemed to have a close relationship with the scene projected in the blood vein ring. As the blood vein ring was continually blinking, that electric current was gradually releasing the miraculous description of these scenes. Laro Luo's dark body. Shi Yang discolored, watching the scene with a dumbfounded face. His heart was filled with surprise, not knowing what was going on as he was gazing at the 300-meter dragon skeleton and the coffin lying within it. The Antiquity Lofty Dragon Graveyard, one of bloodthirstiest entourage of 8, the dark body of Laro Luo. The thought in his head described the scene one more time. The immense light from the blood vein ring started to cease, and the scenes inside its red halo were fading away. Everything restored to the normal states. The strange light sparkled on the blood vein ring for a short while and then stopped. The blood vein ring became normal. The shocking energy waves are really strong. The ice-cold flame sent him a message from the blood vein ring. It looks like the skeleton of the Antiquity Lofty Dragon in the scene. What happened? The Antiquity Lofty Dragons had been vanished for a long time ago, hadn't they? What kind of ring is your ring? Antiquity Lofty Dragons? Shi Yang was startled, and couldn't help but probe. Do you know the Antiquity Lofty Dragons? Yeah, the Antiquity Lofty Dragon was the royal family of the dragon tribe in the ancient time. As the Black Flood Dragons were a kind of dragon beasts, according to the legends, they were the descendants of the Antiquity Lofty Dragons. In the ancient times, the size of the Antiquity Lofty Dragon was extraordinarily enormous, like hundreds of meters. They were terrifyingly strong, the royals of the dragon tribe. Each lofty dragon was astoundingly mighty, as they had the cultivation base of a spirit realm warrior. Extreme Lofty Dragon could have the competence of a true God Realm warrior. I heard that the Lofty Dragons in the ancient time were the overlords of the Grace Mainland sea areas. They even occupied many caves or big rivers on the land over the sea. In their prosperous time, their overall competence could be compared with other strong alien tribes. Later on, in the Great War between tribes, the Lofty Dragon tribe was sealed in some area. All of them withered, and no one has seen them ever since. Anything else you know about the Lofty Dragons? I'm not a human. During the Antiquity time, I was still dormant deep inside the glacier. I don't know much of the events during that period. However, at that time, the Lofty Dragons were truly a tyrannical tribe. They were the royals of the dragon tribe. I also heard that they had ruled most of the beasts. Super strong for sure. Shi Yang's countenance changed slightly, as the pictures he had just seen popped up in his mind. The dark body of Laro Luo, what is it? Laro Lu was one of bloodthirstiest entourage of 8. What is bloodthirsty? Apparently, entourage of 8 is the group of 8 servants. As Laro Luo was one of them, were there 7 more? Is that bloodthirsty something the previous master of the blood vein ring? If so, what were the cultivation realms of these 8 servants? Dark body? Is it just a clone of Laroluo, just like the White Bones clone of Demon King Bozun? If Laroluo were a dark body hidden inside a coffin under the skeleton of the Antiquity Lofty Dragon, would he still be useful in that coffin? Suspicions arose continuously in his head, making Shi Yang confused. Since he had had the blood vein ring, he always paid attention to it. Yet, apparently, he couldn't know the subtle features of the ring. Since the blood vein ring could store creatures with mysterious lives like the ice-cold flame, the Holy Spirit God, the earth flame, the king of demonic insects and the devouring gold silkworm, it was much more mysterious than any kinds of storage ring. The giant mystical sword was related to the blood vein ring, too. That sword could destroy the hardest defense with its tremendous fluctuating evil energy. Seemed like it was a sacred level treasure. All sorts of signs proved that this blood vein ring was obviously something extremely mysterious. Perhaps, it had some connection with the bloodthirsty indeed. There was a clone of a servant of the bloodthirsty hidden under the skeleton of the lofty dragon, and the lofty dragons of the dragon tribe lived in the antiquity time. Was it true that bloodthirsty came from the antiquity time? It took him half a day for figuring out nothing about the reasons. He only felt that every detail related to it was doubtful. Shaking his head, Shi Yang was utterly confused. He didn't want to think about it more, came out from the vault and found Yang Zhuo. Big uncle, do you know the graveyard of the Antiquity Lofty Dragon on the seabed? Yang Zhuo discolored, trembling. He asked Shi Yang with fear, how do you know about the Antiquity Lofty Dragon graveyard? Did Enyu Lang tell you that? Chapter 460, Silverstone Fort. Chapter 460, Silverstone Fort. Not Enyu Lang, I got it from the ice-cold flame. There's something I need in the Antiquity Lofty Dragon graveyard. I want to go and see. You can't. All of a sudden, Yang Zhuo paled while shaking his head constantly. Absolutely shouldn't do that. The Antiquity Lofty Dragon graveyard's the restricted area on the seabed. Throughout thousands of years, no warrior of the sea tribes has ever come out alive from there. In the legends, there are treasures that the lofty dragons had collected in that forbidden area. It has attracted numerous hotshots from the sea tribes, but I have never heard of anyone who could actually find them. As far as I've known, all had buried their bodies all together in the dragon's tomb. Is that a strange place? I think that Enyu Lang wanted to harm you when he told you about the Antiquity Lofty Dragon graveyard. Yang Zhuo wore a serious face and said with a low tone. In short, you should never go there. Let alone your Sky Realm cultivation base, even the God Realm warriors couldn't escape alive. Enyu Lang has the cultivation base at Third Sky of Spirit Realm, but he doesn't dare to peep in the place. Shi Yang's complexion changed. Why do you want to go there? There's something essential to me. I want to go there. Don't go, and don't you ever mention this again. Yang Zhuo continuously shook his head to refuse. Seemed like he was absolutely terrified of that lofty dragon's forbidden area. As Shi Yang saw his determination, he didn't repeat the matter, but shifted the topic and asked whether he had arranged everything or not. Yang Zhuo hid something in this matter too. He told Shi Yang that several days after he had arranged things in Barren City, he would leave the city together with Shi Yang. Shi Yang nodded, and didn't say anything further. Then, he left the Yang family's house alone. Afterward, he came to the tavern in the city. The shopkeeper and the waiter greeted him with friendly faces. They served him food and good wine even before he could have time to order. You're really awesome, the waiter said with admiration. After you left, the Yang family sent someone to collect the fee. I told them what you said to us. Indeed, they didn't argue with us, and said that they would no longer come here for collecting the tax. The waiter had his eyes brightened as he said with low tone, Are you really Shi Yang, the one who killed Ming Hai and got the approval from the water scorpion tribe, Bao Wen, and Bao Ku? Yeah. The young waiter's eyes got brighter. His face was getting more excited. From now on, when you want to drink, come to us. Haha. I think the shopkeeper won't take your money. Right, sir? Little brother. We didn't recognize Mount Taishan. We didn't know that you are Shi Yang. If we offended you, please forgive us, smiled the shopkeeper. You are being too polite, Shi Yang smiled, shook his head then said, Shopkeeper, you're doing business in Barren City. I guess you're familiar with the situation here, right? I have something I want to ask you. May I? Little brother, you shouldn't be too polite. The smile on the shopkeeper's face widened. He slightly bent his body and said, You can ask for sure. As long as we know it, we will tell you all together. We won't hide any small details, either. Have you ever heard about the antiquity lofty dragon graveyard? Ah. The shopkeeper changed his visage to a more surprised one. He raked his eyes to his side. After he could confirm that no one was there, he asked hurriedly, Why do you ask this? As Shi Yang saw the other change his attitude, he felt this could work, immediately, and said, I'm interested in some rumors on the seabed. I've just come here, and I want to know more about the seabed situations and gain more knowledge. That's why I asked you. If you know and you aren't afraid, please do tell. The shopkeeper relaxed his complexion when he knew the other was just curious. The antiquity lofty dragon graveyard is the mysterious forbidden place in the seabed. Thousands of years have passed, and so many strong warriors undersea want the lofty dragon's treasure. They went and probed over the years. Unfortunately, as far as I've known, no one came back alive. Seems there's something really intimidating, which killed everyone who dared to go in. The information he provided wasn't much different from Yang Zhuo's, as they had just mentioned how terrifying that antiquity lofty dragon graveyard was and how many famous warriors of the sea tribes had died there. They all said that the place wasn't a place that warriors should visit. Since that area was protected by God, anyone who entered would be punished by God. Do you know where it is exactly? Shi Yang went around the bush then came back to his main purpose. People said that it's under the Vault of Heaven Sea area. But I'm not sure about the exact location. Only someone who has gone there could know. But they are all dead. The shopkeeper shook his head and sighed. The lofty dragons were the overlord of all kinds of beasts undersea. Of course, their graveyard won't be ordinary. It should have unimaginable dangers. No visitors can escape death. Oh. Shi Yang nodded and mused for a while, then said, After I leave, in 2 more days, please come to the Yang family and tell them I'm going to the Vault of Heaven to find some stuff. Tell the master of the Yangs in Barren City, Yang Zhuo. Are you going to the antiquity lofty dragon graveyard? The shopkeeper and the young waiter were flurried all of a sudden. Haha. Help me deliver the message. Don't ask too much. Shi Yang smiled, left a crystal and then turned into a beam of light shooting towards the Vault of Heaven Sea area. Boss. The young waiter was worried, and said hurriedly, if he goes to the lofty dragon's forbidden area, he can't come back alive. I think we shouldn't wait longer. We should tell the master of the Yangs now. Yes. I'm going to the Yang families. The shopkeeper was in a hurry, too. He answered the young waiter then left. 15 minutes later. Yang Zhuo's face darkened. He continuously shook his head and muttered, Why did he not listen to my advice? Why is he so stubborn? Young men who don't listen to old men would suffer a huge loss. Shi Yang, you kiddo, do you think that you can be lucky forever? 7 days later. Shi Yang arrived at a sea area under the Vault of Heaven Sea area. The seawater there was crystal clear blue. Fish were moving in schools, and beasts could be seen here and there. At first, he had just met low-level beasts at level 3 or 4. The closer he got to the Vault of Heaven Sea area, the higher the level of the beasts was. Searching this sea area for a while, he still hadn't found the lofty dragon graveyard. But he ended up having some conflicts with some daring beasts. Beasts at level 6 and 7 weren't his match now. Facing Shi Yang, their only consequences were to be skinned, and their demon crystals be taken. After spending several days under the Vault of Heaven Sea area, he still had nothing. Without the exact direction, it seemed not easy at all to find the antiquity lofty dragon's graveyard. Today, he saw a giant fort built with silver stone. Many members of the sea tribes were working and living in there. His eyes brightened. He wanted to enter the city. Walking around the fort for a while, he found out that the sea tribe's members inside the fort were mostly from the Silver Shark clan. Shi Yang stopped a member of the Jade Clam tribe outside the fort. Among the tribes of the sea tribes, the Jade Clam tribe was one of the weakest. Members of the Jade Clam tribe had a giant shell on their back, just like the turtles. Their fleshy body was in between the shells. People said that their cultivating process was arduous. None of the Jade Clam tribe's member had ever reached the spirit realm. This Jade Clam's member was a young female. She looked pretty with red lips and white teeth. After she was blocked by Shi Yang, she didn't fluster, just frowned at him coldly and said, "Human, why do you come to the Silver Stone Fort? Don't you know that the Silver Stone Fort's the Silver Shark clan's territory? You damn human, bet you're planning to mess up with our sea tribes." "I'm telling you, Yin Hui, the patriarch of the Silver Shark clan, is in the Silver Stone Fort now. Death is a certain consequence if you dare to provoke us here." Silver Stone Fort, frowned Shi Yang. He had heard from Li Feng that the Silver Shark clan's territory had been divided into some parts. The Silver Stone Fort was just one of them. It was the place where an elder of the Silver Shark clan cultivated. Many weak tribes were living around the Silver Stone Fort, and the Jade Clam tribe was one of them. Those tribes didn't have warriors strong enough to protect the tribes. Their life was a little bit difficult, so they had to depend on stronger tribes like the Silver Shark clan. Every year, they had to offer the Silver Shark clan massive wealth to receive the protection from the stronger tribe. That was how they could survive on the seabed. Yin Hui's staying in the Silver Shark Fort? Scared now? The female member of the Jade Clam tribe sneered, then said arrogantly, "You'd better get out of here as soon as possible. The seabed isn't a place where human warriors could poke your nose in. Harumph, Silver Stone Fort is Crew's cultivating place. He's the elder of the Silver Shark clan, and he has just entered the spirit realm. Patriarch Yin Hui came here to congratulate him. Many strong warriors of the sea tribes are gathering in the Silver Stone Fort, too. If you dare to provoke us, I'm sure you'll see enough." This member of the Jade Clam tribe had a shallow cultivation base, but her tone was cold and arrogant. She was using the connection with the Silver Shark clan to intimidate Shi Yang, so she didn't fear. Shi Yang burst out laughing, but he didn't quarrel with her. He contemplated, then said, "Me too, I'm going to cheer for Elder Crew. Shall we go together? I don't walk the same road as humans." The female member of the Jade Clam tribe rolled her eyes, threw him a malicious look, put on the serious face and crossed him, swimming towards the Silver Stone Fort. Shi Yang shook his head and smilingly followed her. "Human, stop." He hadn't even approached the Silver Stone Fort gate when a member of the Silver Shark clan shouted, pointing his weapon at him. He seemed to ready fight Shi Yang at any minute if the other didn't follow his words. "I've told you. Humans like you can't enter the Silver Stone Fort." The Jade Clam tribe's member mocked him, then chinned up, entering the Silver Stone Fort. Chapter 461, The Sea Races Banquet. Chapter 461, The Sea Races Banquet. "Human, get back to where you came from. We, people of the Silver Stone Fort, do not welcome mankind." A member of the Silver Shark clan snorted coldly with a displeased face at the gate of the Silver Stone Fort. People of the Silver Shark clan had a shark fin on their back. This was the signature of the Silver Shark clan. Besides this fin, they didn't look much different from humans. People said that the Silver Shark clan had been evolved from sharks. That's how they had the fin, the signature of their kind. Among the other clans in the ocean, the Silver Shark clan was almost as strong as the Black Flood Dragon race, one of the strongest races in the sea. Silver Sharks people were born with a sense of superiority. Unless they were facing the Black Flood Dragon clan, they were always haughty in front of the members from other sea tribes. This little guard wasn't an exception when he was talking arrogantly to Shi Yang. Shi Yang came here this time to find Yin Hui to ask for something related to the ancient Lofty Dragon's graveyard. As the Silver Shark clan was situated in this area, being the patriarch of the race, Yin Hui must know the exact location of that ancient Lofty Dragon's graveyard. Compared to searching alone with no clues, it had better ask someone who might know. "I come from Barren City, a member of the Yang family. I heard that Precursor Crew has entered the spirit realm, so I came here to congratulate him." Please report. Oh yeah, your patriarch Yin Hui and I have met once. I hope that you guys would give me a chance to praise precursor crew. Shi Yang held a smile on his face, handing out a small purse, which kept 10 pieces of good profound chi crystal. A female member of the Jade Clam race couldn't hold her despising look seeing him bribe the guard. It's true that humans are all cunning indeed. The guard of the Silver Shark clan estimated the value of the purse and then changed his manner to be friendlier. However, he still had to keep his face. Human, are you lying to me? Even if you're a member of the Yang family, you're not eligible to meet my patriarch. However, as you know the situation, I'll let you in. Then, he stepped aside to give way for Shi Yang to enter the city. It seemed that profound chi crystals could be the pass to anywhere. This guy from the Silver Shark clan received Shi Yang's bribe, couldn't help but fall into the same track and open the convenient door for him. Villain. As Shi Yang just passed through the gate, the female member of the Jade Clam race cursed, "Humans are all cunning. You didn't embarrass your kind. You're truly a villain." Shi Yang ignored her, raised his eyebrows and passed her over to get into the Silverstone fort. Members of the rare sea tribes like the Whelks, the Merpeople, the Saber-Teeth, all were living inside the Silverstone fort. Many members of the sea tribes had low cultivation bases, such as Nascent, Human, and Disaster Realm. They were gathering freely at a corner in the Silverstone fort to talk about the significant issues in the ocean or the secrets of their own races. Shi Yang suddenly burst out laughing. After listening attentively for a while, he found out that the focus of their talks was him. These sea tribes members were gathering and talking about the event of Barren City and mentioning his name. When people of the sea tribes talked about him, their faces were stiff, as they knew there was a new ferocious slaughterer born among mankind. He was a brutal guy who liked to kill the sea tribes members, and that he had stirred up the human race and killed many members of the sea tribes. Those sea tribes members talked about him like a wicked beyond redemption, utterly unbearable villain. After a while, Shi Yang forced a smile, shook his head and sighed. Members of the sea tribes didn't have a good impression of the human race naturally, just like the way they treated the Yang family. They would favor their members, and it was totally natural. Although the reputation of the water scorpion tribe wasn't good, it was a member of the sea tribes. As Shi Yang had hurt Bao Wen and subdued Bao Ku, in their eyes, Shi Yang was already their enemy. No matter what the truth was, they considered the water scorpion tribe the victim. He couldn't change the attitude of the sea tribes toward him. Discrimination would never be changed, even if it were in the endless sea, the underworld, or the demon area. Even if they wanted to change, it wouldn't happen. No warrior could utilize only his strength alone to convert the awareness of other races. Uniting all the races to one and living in peace in the same place was impossible. Shaking his head, Shi Yang didn't think about it furthermore. After walking one round in the Silverstone fort, he knew where Crew was, in the south of the Silverstone fort. Inside a spacious place around 100 acres in area were situated many oval silver stone buildings. Those buildings had strange shapes, which had been decorated with drawings of the sea monsters. When Shi Yang came to that place, he took in the scene and suddenly shook his body, changing his appearance as a fin jutted out from his back. When he had entered the Silverstone fort, if he still used the human appearance, it would be hard for him to get in Crew's place. Only if he had the appearance of the Silver Shark clan's members could he mingle with the others and get the chance to visit Crew. After his petrification martial spirit had reached the peak, his control over his body had also entered a subtle, mysterious realm. He only needed a flicker of a thought, and he could conveniently change his body, turning into another person's shape. Growing only a fin on the back wasn't a tough job to him. After he had transformed into the appearance of the Silver Shark clan's members, there was no strange look gazing on him along the way. Members of the weaker races like the Jade Clams, the Whelks, and the Merpeople also showed respect to him. When he approached Crew's house, the Silver Shark guard only threw him a look, and when he found that Shi Yang had the Sky Realm cultivation base, he didn't say anything and just let him go. Shi Yang walked to the roomy court where Crew was holding his party. It was a lively scene of celebrating peace with songs and dance. Female members of the Jade Clams and the Whelk tribe were shaking their bodies, dancing on the stage made of coral. The Jade Clams and the Whelk tribes had average powers among the sea tribes, but their women were really good at dancing, as their moves were charming enough to shake people's mind. On that luxurious stage, 10 women from the Jade Clams and the Whelks were smiling, dancing like silk. Scattered around the stage were crystal tables. Those crystal tables had all the colors one could name. They were translucent and shimmering with a dreamy light. The best warriors from the sea tribes were sitting at the crystal tables, drinking good wine and enjoying the fine cuisine of the ocean. They also amused themselves with the performance on the stage while chatting with the others. The atmosphere was boisterous. Right at the middle, in front of all of them, stood a giant crystal table, with an old silver shark man seated. His face was reddened because of the wine he took. He was talking and laughing with emotion as he was continually poured wine to a middle-aged silver shark man sitting next to him. That middle-aged man also had a shark fin on his back. Although he was sitting in his seat, an oppressing aura like a big mountain was spreading. The patriarch of the Silver Shark clan, Yin Hui. At first glance, Shi Yang knew right away that man was Yin Hui. The old silver shark man with a long beard was the host of the party today, Crew. A young maiden was sitting next to him, perhaps she was his daughter. She was also smiling and offering fine wine to Yin Hui. Yin Hui didn't deny her, just smiled and drank. Sometimes, he gave the girl compliment as she was a beauty that would become the dazzling pearl of the Silver Shark clan. There were 10 crystal tables behind the table of Crew and Yin Hui. Seated there were the hotshots of the sea tribes. There were members of the Black Flood Dragon clan, the Naga tribe, and the Water Scorpion tribe. The lowest cultivation base those people had was the Nirvana realm. Most of them were at the Sky realm. All were drinking too much, and delivering their compliments to Crew and Yin Hui. The atmosphere was warm and harmonious. Shi Yang stood behind the stage, far away from the center of the feast. He frowned, looking at Yin Hui as he was considering what kind of excuse he could use to approach Yin Hui and ask for the ancient lofty dragon graveyard. All of a sudden, a familiar aura got to him from behind Yin Hui and Crew, making his pupils shrink. Looking more attentively, he found 6 people wearing veils and covering all their bodies standing behind Yin Hui and Crew. Apparently, the aura from 2 among them was really familiar to him. Kaoji Lan. Panja. Shi Yang was terrified. When he was in the demonic sound clan, he had planted a soul seed inside Kaoji Lan and Panja's souls. Although he had soon lifted the barrier, he was still familiar with their souls. In a certain range, he would be able to detect their existence and recognize them. The man and the woman wearing the veil, they were absolutely Kaoji Lan and Panja. The most outstanding young leader of the Cao family and the Penglai Holy Land's future successor, the 2 prominent youths of the Endless Sea appeared at the territory of the Silver Shark clan and in Crew's house. What was going on? Shi Yang's face darkened as suspicions filled his heart. While he was coldly looking at Kaoji Lan and Pan Zhe, he changed his appearance in silence. After a while, his cheeks were much thinner as his sockets became deeper, that made him look more ferocious and malicious. Both Kaoji Lan and Pan Zhe had known him. If those 2 saw him, they could know his identity right away. For the moment, he didn't want to expose himself. He wanted to hide and observe what Pan Zhe and Kaoji Lan were up to. Hey! As Yin Hui was talking with Crew, he suddenly shouted, shifting his look towards him as sharp as lightning. Yin Hui's look suddenly became colder, looking at him from a distance. He was wearing a cold smile but still waving at Shi Yang. Shi Yang discolored. I didn't expect that we will have a friend from far away. Haha, you're considerate indeed. Yin Hui smiled as his eyes were as bright as a torch, crossing through the hotshots of the sea tribes to gaze at him. Yin Hui had seen through his disguise. Chapter 462, Shi Yang from the Yang family. Chapter 462, Shi Yang from the Yang family. Shi Yang suddenly felt embarrassed. He and Yin Hui had just met once. Moreover, the distance between them was too far away. He thought that even when they had a chance to meet up again, Yin Hui wouldn't recognize him. Thus, he decided to visit Crew's banquet deliberately. Unexpectedly, Yin Hui was excellent as he was able to recognize him with just a glance from such a distance. As Yin Hui voiced up, warriors of the sea tribes had their eyes gaze Shi Yang with great surprise. Even the hotshots from human race Cao Zilan and Pan Ji were looking at him after Yin Hui's recognition. However, Cao Zilan and Pan Ji didn't have a strong cultivation base like Yin Hui, and Shi Yang had disguised himself, so those two people couldn't recognize Shi Yang's real identity. Crew was surprised for a while before he said with a low tone, "Patriarch, is this young man a great warrior of our Silver Shark clan? Why doesn't he look familiar at all?" "He's not one of us," Yin Hui smiled coldly then said, "I do hope that our Silver Shark clan could have an outstanding young warrior like him. Too bad, the Silver Shark clan doesn't have that luck." Having heard Yin Hui say so, the hotshots from the sea tribes were more shocked. They eyed Shi Yang with strange faces. "Come sit here." Yin Hui ignored the others' suspicions. He didn't reveal Shi Yang's identity right away as he beamed a smile while looking at the group of Cao Zilan standing behind him. As if he thought this case was interesting, he couldn't help but wave at Shi Yang. As he got exposed, Shi Yang didn't continue to hide. Besides, he wasn't afraid of Yin Hui. Thus, he deliberately walked over, entering the center of the stage and clasped his fist, talking to Crew. "Congratulations for entering the spirit realm. You're one step closer to the Great Way." Crew didn't understand the situation, so he just furrowed, nodded and said, "Thank you. We met half a month ago at Barren City. We were far away at that time, so I didn't have the chance to chat with you." Yin Hui curled his lips to form a smile, nodded to Crew then continued, "He's our guest from far away. Make a seat for him. This little brother is so outstanding that he could make the bow when brothers bow to him. He deserves our respect." Yin Hui succinctly pointed out his real identity. The warriors from the sea tribes couldn't help but exclaim out loud. "Shi Yang from the Yang family." The Silver Shark mild-mannered maiden sitting next to Crew cheered softly as her beautiful eyes brightened up. Standing behind Yin Hui, Cao Zilan and Pan Ji, who were wearing the bamboo hat with a long veil, were shaking in shock. "It's him." Cao Zilan gritted her teeth. At this moment, she felt the 5 flavors were all flooding her heart. The last time they met was at the Sun Island of the Three Gods sect in the Yuan Luo Sea. After she knew that the pagans Yi Tianmo and Di Shan had turned to the demon dwellers and cut off the relation with Shi Yang, she determinedly gave Shi Yang up. Now, when she looked back, she thought her decision at that time was so wrong. Not long after Shi Yang had left the island, he had raised waves in the endless sea, fought against Mo Chi Ta, Qing Ming, the Queen of Heaven and the Emperor of Earth. He also caused a significant trauma for the Corpse God sect, as he had made the King Corpse revive his consciousness. This series of his deeds had shaken all the strong warriors of the Endless Sea. She thought that Shi Yang would barely be able to struggle, but in fact, he had used his deeds to make all the warriors of the Endless Sea remember his name. Shi Yang had disappeared for 1 year. Anyway, whenever the leaders of the forces in Endless Sea mentioned his name, they all wore a serious face as if his name were a taboo matter. Cao Zilan knew that she had made a wrong assumption that underestimated Shi Yang's profound potential. Too bad, it was too late. Under her suggestion, the Cao family had joined the game to chase and kill Shi Yang, which meant they had cut off the relationship with him. Due to this one mistake, she had lost the close relationship with Shi Yang forever. At the moment, as they saw Shi Yang, who had gone missing for a year, Cao Zilan suddenly felt her heart was constantly moved, as the image in her mind had flooded her heart once again. The face under the bamboo hat was filled with remorse. Cao Zilan bowed and sighed begrudgingly. The Endless Sea was vast, but she had only met one man who could touch her heart. This man had used his domineering power and mysteriously left a bold brushstroke in her soul. However, due to the complexity of the situation, she had chosen to be on the opposite side of his. This was hard to recover. Cao Zilan shook her head as her eyes revealed her sorrow. She beamed a self-ridiculing smile. Under Yin Hui's reminder, all the warriors of the sea tribes present at the banquet held an amazed countenance. They all gazed at Shi Yang, who was standing unyieldingly. During this period, the name Shi Yang was the most resounding name in the ocean. He was the one who used a Sky Realm cultivation base to defeat Bao Ku and Bao Wen, who received both Yin Hui's and Li Shou's praises. He was such a legend. Even if they were living undersea, members of the sea tribes were also interested in strong warriors. From the misfortune at Barren City to Shi Yang stopping the furious wave, all kinds of rumors had been spread out on the ocean floor. All warriors of the sea tribes knew that the Yang family had a tough character. That kid's potential was even more dangerous than young Tian emperors that year. As of now, they could see the hotshot in the rumor, and strong warriors from the sea tribes were all showing their interests. Kru's eyes brightened up as he suddenly laughed and pitched his voice. "Come, bring up a table with fine wine and food." Some guards of the Silver Shark clan immediately received the order. Not long after that, they presented a table with good wine and good food. Shi Yang clasped his fist to thank him, then sat down at his table. He was wearing a cold face without any sign of anxiety. He picked up his glass, took some sips and said heroically, "Good wine." The beautiful maiden of the Silver Shark clan sitting next to Kru had her eyes sparkling. As she seemed to be interested in the man, she giggled. "Rumors say that you look extraordinarily ferocious, as if you want to swallow up our sea tribes members. But, I think you look normal." Shi Yang beamed a wry smile. Under the watchful eyes, he started to transform. Within just 3 seconds, the fin on his back disappeared, and his face had recovered to its original form. The beautiful eyes of the maiden brightened up as she chuckled. "Is that your real appearance?" Shi Yang nodded. "A lot better now," the young girl smiled, holding her glass. "My name's Hai Luo. Thanks for coming to celebrate with my father." Shi Yang drank up his glass, smiled and said, "Hai Luo, the beautiful pearl of the sea. Truly worthy of the name." Hai Luo smiled, and it made her eyes as narrow as a line. She wiped off the wine on her lips and said, "You know how to say sweet words." Cao Lan standing behind suddenly felt irritated. She couldn't help but hum quietly. "Jealous?" Pan Zhe said with a low tone. "Previously, you had a close relationship with Shi Yang. I used to think that with your charm, you could subdue him under your dress. How could it turn to this? So, now you feel regret when you see him flirting with others? Even if I made a wrong decision, I will not regret it." Cao Lan clenched her teeth and snorted coldly. "You shouldn't be wordy. Think about how to deal with this sudden situation. There's no solution. Even if Shi Yang didn't come here, the Silver Shark clan wouldn't still cooperate with us." Pan Zhe shook his head. "People from the sea tribes are discreetly watching the situation up there, waiting for us to engage in the war. I don't think they will form a relationship with us. As long as the benefit's big enough, nothing's impossible." Another young man smiled behind the veil of his bamboo hat. "What a pity that Nu Lang didn't come here. If not, we just need to talk to him." As long as Nu Lang nods his head, the Water Scorpion tribe, the Naga tribe and the Silver Shark clan will agree with his opinions. Nu Lang has never talked to humans. In the recent years, there's only young Tian Emperor who has come to the Black Flood Dragon clan to talk to him once. We shouldn't lay hopes on this person. Unless our seniors come here directly, he won't meet any guests. Cao Lan couldn't help but sigh. As they were whispering to each other on this side, on the other side, Shi Yang was drinking with the hotshots of the sea tribes. He drank 1 glass with each of them, including Kru and Yin Hui. It looked like he didn't know that this was a celebration of the Silver Shark clan, and he was rather a guest that somewhat overwhelmed the host. He was feasting with other people, drinking happily with the members of the sea tribes. Cao Lan was a guest, but she could only stand aside and watch, as she wasn't eligible to join the banquet. Cao Lan and Pan Zhe felt really annoyed seeing Shi Yang seem to have a good relationship with the Silver Shark clan. "Oh, right." Yin Hui took a glass of wine then acted as if he suddenly remembered his guests. He patted his head then turned around, smiled and said, "Seems we still have some guests here." Kru also looked around. "Perhaps you guys have known each other." Yin Hui's smile hid something behind as he suddenly said, "Bring up another table. Friends, please come forward. Please take off your bamboo hats. Don't worry, although our sea tribes don't get along well with your human race, as you come here with goodwill, of course, we will treat you well." Cao Zilan's group was like they are riding a tiger and it was now hard to get off. Let's go. It's only Shi Yang, we don't need to be afraid of him. The young man standing next to Cao Zilan and Pan Zhe had taken off his bamboo hat, revealing a handsome face. He was Zhongli Dun of the Martial Spirit Palace. The number 1 warrior of the combat list, Zhongli Dun was walking forward from the spot of Cao Zilan and Pan Zhe with a natural expression. Pan Zhe and Cao Zilan were hesitant for a while before following him. Yin Hui's smile became more radiant. He extended his arm to introduce them. These are the young hotshot of the Cao family, the Martial Spirit Palace, and the Penglai Holy Land. Yeah, the 3 behind them are the consecrators Wu Yufeng of the Cao family, Sichu Jie from the Martial Spirit Palace and Kanglan from Penglai Holy Land. They are all famous in the Endless Sea. I guess you guys know each other well. Zhu Yufeng and Sichu Jie from the Martial Spirit Palace were the kind of people with deep thoughts and wild schemes. They were standing behind Cao Zilan and Zhongli Dun, frowning at Shi Yang. Shi Yang couldn't help but shrink his pupils. Those were the 2 first Sky of Spirit Realm warriors. Chapter 463, Safely Free. Chapter 463, Safely Free. After the 9 Serenities' soul-devouring flame had merged with his host soul, he was able to detect the real realm of the others on seeing them. God Realm warriors were no exception, as even they couldn't avoid his sensing. Zhu Yufeng and Sichu Jie were covered in the bamboo hat with a veil. This made the others focus on Cao Zilan and Pan Zhe. Anyway, no one was too attentive. Currently, those 2 had taken off their hats and revealed their appearance. When they came in Shi Yang's line of sight, he knew their real realms at once. Zhu Yufeng and Sichu Jie looked quite thin with dark faces, which gave people the impression that their schemes were really heavy. Especially Sichu Jie, and Shi Yang didn't know when he saw this man, yet he felt familiar as if he had met him before. But then, he recognized that he had never contacted this person before, and had no impression of his face. Kang Lan from Penglai Holy Land had the cultivation base of 3rd Sky of Sky Realm. Shi Yang didn't even consider this person. From this point, the Cao family and the Martial Spirit Palace were 1 level stronger than Penglai Holy Land. This time, the Cao family and the Martial Spirit Palace had sent Spirit Realm warriors, but the Penglai Holy Land had just a Sky Realm warrior. Obviously, they were lower than the Cao family and the Martial Spirit Palace. Shi Yang also knew that the 3 strongest forces of the Endless Sea were the Cows, the Yangs, and the Martial Spirit Palace, and they didn't have only 1 Spirit Realm warrior. The Yang family was the same. He had heard from Yang Zhuo that besides Yang Tian Emperor, the Yangs had 2 other Spirit Realm warriors. However, only Yang Qingdi knew where they were. Yang Zhuo guessed that the 2 Spirit Realm warriors of the Yang family were still in the 4th demon area. Sichu Jie looked at him with a cold, dark face, then gave him a fiendish grin. Shi Yang's eyebrows slammed together, as he felt this guy was somehow familiar, and he had sensed his aura from somewhere before. But at this moment, he couldn't figure it out. As you are all the warriors from the Endless Sea, I suppose you've known each other, right? Do you want me to introduce a little bit here? Yin Hui smiled, shifted his look between them and continued coldly, people that come here from the other places are our guests. If you guys have any resentment, you shouldn't resolve it within the Silverstone Fort. I don't care if you deal with each other outside the Silverstone Fort. You should solve your human race's matters somewhere else. Hotshots from the sea tribes burst out laughing as they heard that. Yin Hui knew the situation that happened above the water surface. He seemed to know that the other forces from everywhere didn't get along well with the Yang family. Now, he had called for Cao Zilan's group, and Shi Yang understood his purpose. Yin Hui regretted that he couldn't make the 2 sides battle against each other. It'd be better if one of them lost. Hope you are well. Shi Yang sneered inside, but his face was still calm. He nodded to Cao Zilan and Pan Zhe. Long time no see. Cao Zilan curled her lips with a cold face. Yeah, long time no see. You're undersea. No wonder why people up there have to search for you with great efforts. It's my bad I've made you guys worried, Shi Yang said. Unfortunately, you've put forth many things, but I've survived well. As long as I'm alive, we will have chances to solve this grudge in the future. Something flared up in Cao Zilan's beautiful eyes as she nodded deliberately. Pan Zhi also felt embarrassed. He forced a smile to Shi Yang and clasped his hands. We've met again. Seeing you are still alive, I think many people feel worried. Sigh. Honestly, I don't want to be your enemy. Too bad it's the situation, and I have no choice. Shi Yang was dazed, and didn't understand his attitude. No matter what happened, you saved me in the chasm battlefield. Although your deeds were despicable when you confined our souls, we got out of there alive. Pan Zhi sighed. I can't control the situation of the endless sea. Here's my advice for you. Leave. Otherwise, you won't have a day living in peace. Shi Yang frowned, but he didn't say anything. The Sea Tribe's warriors, Yin Hui and crew kept a smiling face, watching them without saying anything. It was just like they were watching a play, waiting for the two sides to start the war. Zhongli Dun of the Martial Spirit Palace wore an arrogant face. You are that Shi Yang? With the difficult situation of your young family, do you still think that you can borrow the force from the Sea Tribes to do something up there? Do you think it's possible? Zhongli Dun always looked down on Shi Yang. Before Shi Yang had arrived the Endless Sea, he had been the top warrior on the combat list, and everybody from every force admired him. However, after Shi Yang got back from the chasm battlefield, he had subdued Man Ji Yu, showing his tremendous cultivation base and that he had also hurt Mo Cheetah severely. So many rumors about Shi Yang were spread out. Anyone who knew Shi Yang's stories considered him a new generation hero that no one could deny. He would oppress all the young ages of the Endless Sea, including the one who had topped the combat list, Zhongli Dun. Shi Yang appeared across the sky and had covered his presence, as the other had become the peerless young warrior that many people from the Endless Sea had to recognize. This man even had the competence to provoke the previous generations. This was a hard hit to Zhongli Dun. At this moment, as he was meeting Shi Yang undersea, Zhongli Dun's attitude couldn't be better. Although the Yang family doesn't appear in the Endless Sea, they do live well, and the competence of the family is well preserved. Of course, Shi Yang wouldn't give him face. He sneered. Well, we aren't like some other forces. First, they would take the chance to collaborate with every force they could reach. Well, they thought they could satisfy their long-cherished wishes, but the demon dwellers and the dark dwellers had spanked their butts. Their power is draining, and the dark dwellers and the demon dwellers are torturing them every day. A brutal look shot out from Zhongli Dun's eyes. He coldly looked at Shi Yang and said, Nonsense. The demon dwellers in the demon area had eradicated the Yang family. You really think that people would believe in your lies? Shi Yang burst out laughing. He shook his head, wore a disdainful look on his face, but didn't regard the other. Forgive me for speaking frankly, Zhongli Dun clasped his hands, looking at Yin Hui. If you guys cooperate with the Yang family, I think the human race will not approve it. It could be said that the Yang family is the common enemy of the whole Endless Sea. They aren't on the same side with the demon dwellers and the dark dwellers either. Once you choose to collaborate with the Yangs, you'll face a formidable pressure you have never had. Our sea tribes only love the beauty of the ocean, we don't like killing. Yin Hui laughed. Today is the banquet of crew. If you guys want to drink, we'll welcome you. But if you want to discuss things we aren't interested in, please cut it off. Come. Let's toast. Yin Hui didn't want to expose his real purpose. No matter it was the cows, the Martial Spirit Palace or the Yangs, he pretended that he wasn't interested in anyone. Having heard Yin Hui say that, Zhongli Dun and Cao Zilan were disappointed. However, they didn't continue the talk, as they wanted to wait until the party finished. They would find Yin Hui to talk him into this. As Shi Yang didn't come here to create the relationship with the Silver Shark clan, he didn't bother with Yin Hui's words, just relaxed and drank. He looked breezily, as if he didn't want to discuss any important matter. This man's free and easy. Hai Luo chuckled, then picked up her jade glass, walking over to Shi Yang like a beautiful siren. I can see you don't really want to work with the Silver Shark clan. I also heard that the Yang family doesn't live well on land. What do you want? I don't want anything. I'm okay with my life now. Shi Yang smiled, not intending to discuss any business with Hai Luo, as he was drinking and chatting about some interesting rumors in the endless sea. Hai Luo had heard a lot about Shi Yang. With her curiosity about his personality, she stayed close to him and asked him many questions. Shi Yang then talked about the dark magnetic noxious mist, the powers of the earth and firmament, the beasts, the exotic land of the place and the floating island and mountain. Hai Luo was amazed. She asked more questions as her curiosity was growing. The two were talking with low tone. Shi Yang did it on purpose so the other Sea Tribes member surrounding them couldn't hear the content of his story. Cao Zhilan pouted her lips while wearing a bitter face. As she was watching Hai Luo and Shi Yang, her beautiful eyes flared up with jealousy. She felt annoyed seeing Shi Yang and Hai Luo close to each other. Yin Hui's look was faint. Sometimes, he shifted to Shi Yang just like he was watching over something silently. This was a big feast, and most of the Sea Tribes members had grown their interest in Shi Yang. Sometimes, some hotshots of the Sea Tribes would come over and have a toast with him. In the recent years, the Yang family had helped the Sea Tribes. If the strong warriors from the Sea Tribes had any good feeling towards the humans, it would be only for the members of the Yang family. Previously, Shi Yang had performed his invincible power in the barren city, which raised the curiosity among the Sea Tribes members. Moreover, he was one of the Yangs, that's why the Sea Tribes members would proactively come and offer him drinks. No one cared about Cao Zhilan, Pan Zhe, and Zhong Li Dun. Although these three people represented the influential forces in the Endless Sea, the Sea Tribes members didn't give them any face by drinking with them. Cao Zhilan's group was as if they were sitting on pins and needles. They suddenly felt that they somehow were inharmonious with the rest of the people enjoying the banquet. Many members of the Sea Tribes acted like they didn't see this group of people. Quite on the contrary, Shi Yang's table was bustling with noise and excitement. Not only the beauties, but also the hotshots from the Sea Tribes came there. The party was finally coming to an end, but no member of the Sea Tribes visited Cao Zhilan's table. The banquet ended. 6 people of Cao Zhilan's group stood up, looking at Yin Hui with expectation. They seemed to want to say something but still hesitated. Yin Hui smiled, waving his hand. "Come here." The faces of Cao Zhilan's group brightened. They hurried to go with Yin Hui to a secret chamber behind the stage to discuss something important. "Shi Yang, hang in there. We'll talk later." Yin Hui regarded him, smiled, then led the group of 6 to another place. The 6 people of Cao Zhilan and Pan Zhe's group followed Yin Hui. However, after half an hour, they all came out of the place. They were frowning, not looking happy at all. It seemed they didn't have a good discussion with Yin Hui. After the 6 of them had gotten out of the place, they regarded Shi Yang coldly and left Crew's house. They seemed to leave the Silver Stone Castle, too. Yin Hui called out for Shi Yang, who then finally got up. A guard of the Silver Shark clan led him to another secret chamber. Only Yin Hui was in the room. "Do you know what they asked us?" Yin Hui smiled, but it didn't look like a smile. "No, I don't." Shi Yang shook his head and gave the other a cold answer. "I don't care, either. It's related to your Yang family a bit." Yin Hui proactively explained. "They are willing to give up the Kiara Sea. As long as our Sea Tribes agree to deal with the Dark Dwellers, the Kiara Sea will belong to us." "Ha ha. Seems like the Dark Dwellers and the Demon Dwellers have subdued people of the Endless Sea quite badly. It's been many years, and the human race hasn't had a good relationship with our Sea Tribes. They don't even want us to come up to the surface. This time will become a precedence. They are even prepared to give us the Kiara Sea. Don't you think it's interesting?" Shi Yang's face was stiff. The Kiara Sea used to belong to the Yang family. After the Yangs had left that sea area, the Demon Dwellers had taken over the area and then handed over to the Dark Dwellers. It could be said that the area had undergone strenuous events with bleeding wounds. Unexpectedly, the cows, the Martial Spirit Palace, and the Penglai Holy Land came here this time to offer the Yang family's territory to the Sea Tribes. Basically, they didn't care about the Yang family. Seems like their situation is not really optimistic. Shi Yang frowned, snorted and said, "Nevertheless, Kiara Sea belongs to the Yangs, even if it's controlled by the Dark Dwellers now. In the future, we, the Yang family, will take it back. Whoever claims the Kiara Sea will become the Yang family's enemy. As I heard from the Black Flood Dragon clan, you wanted the Yangs to cooperate with the sea tribes? Yin Hui said with a solemn face. I had that thought, but it would be impossible with Precursor Nu Lang's attitude. Shi Yang didn't want to conceal. What your sea tribes want is not to join the battle. You're waiting for the war to come to the most brutal point, in which both sides have to be wounded. And then, you will take over the Endless Sea, the Demon Area, and the Underworld at once. This is your true great plan. Yin Hui's eyes suddenly brightened. Since you just want to sit there and watch the fight, no matter how much that group of 6 tries to persuade you, it's useless. I don't have to worry at all. Shi Yang smiled. Precursor Nu Lang's a man who embraces ambitions. As the opportunity that happens once in 1,000 years is in front of your eyes, nobody will believe that you won't take the chance. So why did you come here? Yin Hui contemplated for a while before frowning and asking him. Seems like you are not here to persuade me, right? Of course not, Shi Yang shook his head. I want to ask for the location of the Antiquity Lofty Dragon Graveyard. You're the patriarch of the Silver Shark clan, so you should know where it is, right? You want the treasure of the Lofty Dragon? Yin Hui sneered all of a sudden. Over thousands of years, countless strong warriors from amongst us have intruded that place, but no one could get out alive. Even Nu Lang doesn't dare to get in because he couldn't be sure. You brat really think that using external forces to defeat Bao Wen is enough for you to enter the Antiquity Lofty Dragon Graveyard? If you know the place, just tell me. You don't need to care about the other stuff. Shi Yang didn't put his ridicule in mind. Even if there's no one to show me the way, it's just a matter of time before I find out that dragon graveyard. Don't you agree? If you want to die, I don't care. Yin Hui mused for a while, then threw him a crystal. This crystal can show you the way to the Antiquity Lofty Dragon Graveyard. Just follow the crystal's guidance, and you can get to that forbidden area at the bottom of the sea. Anyway, I don't think you can get out of here alive. Oh. Those 6 people are waiting for you outside the Silver Stone Fort perhaps. I don't know if you can escape their hands. Even if you can leave this place safely, it's your dead end entering the forbidden area of the Antiquity Lofty Dragon. As an appreciation to the Yang family's attitude toward our sea tribes throughout many years, I'll give you a piece of advice. Stay away from that graveyard. It's not the place you human can dig for benefits. Thanks in advance. Shi Yang ignored Yin Hui's advice, clasped his hands to greet, then left Crew's house. Patriarch. Crew regarded his leader after Shi Yang had left. I denied the offer from those 6 people, said Yin Hui coldly. Crew nodded. I know Patriarch will not appreciate the small benefit. I heard that Shi Yang had visited the Black Flood Dragon clan. Then, Precursor Nu Lang declared that the Black Flood Dragon clan would not interfere with the Yang's business in the barren city. Everything stays the same. So, does Shi Yang have, with Precursor Nu Lang? Do you think it's possible? Laughed Yin Hui. Crew was dazed, but then he also smiled. Impossible. I also feel confused. Why does this brat want to visit the Antiquity Lofty Dragon Graveyard? It's the forbidden area of the seabed. Thousands of years have passed by, but no one ever came out of there alive. Even I just dare to stay outside. I have never actually entered the center of the tomb. Yin Hui frowned. That kid isn't stupid. It's obvious that he knows how dangerous that place is, but he still wants to get in there. Why? Is he confident that he can get out of there alive? How could it be? Crew let out a light sigh and shook his head continuously. Even Precursor Nu Lang, who has already entered the 3rd sky of Spirit Realm, doesn't dare to enter the place. He's just a junior at the Sky Realm. What skills does he have? I overheard from his talk to Hai Luo that he has visited the dark magnetic noxious mist. It's also a mystery, and we can't measure it. He has survived that place. Does it mean he has something special? Did he just boast it? I doubt that. Yin Hui shook his head. He confirmed that he did visit the dark magnetic noxious mist. We have no doubt about this point. The dark magnetic noxious mist is really mysterious, and we don't know what it's like if we haven't been there. He's able to get out from there, which means he should have something great. This kid isn't an ordinary young man. He has the power of a warrior at the spirit realm when he's just at the sky realm. We can't consider him with common sense. So, what do you mean? I will go to the Antiquity Lofty Dragon Graveyard to see if he does enter that place. I do want to know whether or not this brat was just boasting about himself. Well, we don't know if he could survive the other 6 people waiting for him out there. They can't challenge him. Anyway, even Bao Ku and Bao Wen have to be afraid of him. I think if this kid put forth all of his abilities, he could escape from that group of 6. Yeah, I think it shouldn't be a problem. This man is more excellent than Yang Tian Emperor that year. We should treat him with care. It would be better. Such good ideas from our patriarch. Chapter 464. Look, you are not strong enough. Chapter 464. Look, you are not strong enough. Outside the Silver Stone Fort. The group of 6, including Cao Zilan, Zhu Yufeng, Zhongli Dun and Sichu Jie were waiting in silence. 2 Spirit Realm hotshots, 2 Sky Realm warriors, plus the outstanding talents whose cultivation base was a little bit lower, Cao Zilan and Pan Zhe. This powerful group could silence many warriors in the Endless Sea and make them not dare to go against their wishes. Although they were waiting for Shi Yang, this group of 6 didn't look relaxed at all, wearing a serious face like they were going to encounter their archenemy. The name Shi Yang had soon been spread through the Endless Sea. His brutal fight against Mo Chi Ta, Qing Ming, the Queen of Heaven and the Emperor of Earth, and all the other types of experience made those people recognize that even if Shi Yang's realm weren't high, he was really dangerous. Without the assistance of Zhu Yufeng and Sichu Jie, they wouldn't have the guts to stay there. We should be careful later on. Cao Zilan said with a low voice and a serious face. Seems like his realm's been increasing every day very fast. Last time when he was in the Endless Sea, he was at the Nirvana realm. But now, he's gone straight up to the Sky realm. At that time, he had caused a lot of trouble to Qing Ming and the other 2. As he's at the Sky realm now, it should be really tough to deal with him. Don't worry, miss, Zhu Yufeng arched his eyebrows and smiled coldly. The Queen of Heaven and the Emperor of Earth are also in the Spirit realm, but they only have the power of the Spirit realm warriors when they fight together. Sichuji here and I have our powers from ascetic cultivation. We're different from the Queen of Heaven and the Emperor of Earth. If we join our force to attack him, even if that kid has some secret method to increase his ability, we still can make him die in this seabed. Sichu Jie smiled. When we were on the Sun Island, I had tried. Although that kid can borrow external force, it's hard to change his real realm. The soul in his sea of consciousness is estimated to be 1 level lower than ours. If we launch attacks in that aspect, we'll surely trouble him and not let him escape. Right, Zhongli Dun nodded. It's hard to change the sea of consciousness. If we use soul attacks and intrude his sea of consciousness instantly, he absolutely won't be able to bear it. If we can attack fast enough, I think he wouldn't have time to borrow external force. We can then break his sea of consciousness, and that will destroy his soul. His skills in using soul power aren't typical. We still need to be very careful. Pan Zhe shook his head and forced a smile. That year when we were in the Chasm battlefield, he had learned many secret soul techniques from the demonic Sound clan. His understanding towards the soul aspect is much more profound than that of normal people. Sigh, I was a victim. His knowledge in soul power is really mysterious. You shouldn't be careless. The 6 of us are waiting for him here. I think he doesn't dare to get out of the Silver Stone Fort. Zhongli Dun sneered, if he isn't an idiot, he'll stay inside the Silver Stone Fort. As we have to give the Silver Shark clan face, we won't touch him. I believe he won't go out. Not sure. Cao Zilan's beautiful eyes twinkled as she let out a light sigh. This man has more guts than anyone else. I guess he will go out for sure. You guys have overestimated him, disdained Zhongli Dun. Here he comes. Sichu Jie's eyes flared up with cold intent. He couldn't help but shout. He even comes from the main gate. This brat's extremely arrogant. Seems like he doesn't put us in his eyes. He knows we would wait for him here, but he still dares to come. Well, this person doesn't care about death or life. He isn't scared. Perhaps, Pange's face also looked odd. From the main gate of the Silver Stone Fort came a young man strolling through the empty area. It looked like he didn't know that some persons were waiting for him. Behind him, some strong warriors of the sea tribes were watching the situation there. Everyone knew there would be a great fight. Even the two-spirit realm of the Silver Shark clan Yin Hui and crew were standing on a high building in the fort, watching in that general direction. Hai Luo was standing next to crew, listening to her precursor's discussion. Her beautiful eyes were twinkling like shiny pearls, and her succulent lips were moving emotionally. Members of the sea tribes were observing them both publicly and privately from a distance. This kid's haughty. Crew shook his head and frowned. This is the first time I've met such an extremely arrogant fellow. We will have a good show to watch for sure. If he can breezily go out, I think he'll have his part in the future of the Endless Sea. Yin Hui appraised with a serious face. The future of this young fellow can't be foreseen. If he has enough time, he will be like Cao Qiu Dao, Yang Tian Emperor or Yang Yi Tian. Perhaps, he will be even more excellent than those people. Patriarch. I didn't think that you've estimated him that highly. Crew was surprised. According to the information I have, when Yang Tian Emperor was at his age, he had only the cultivation base at Earth Realm. Even when Yang Tian Emperor was at his Sky Realm, I don't think he could be that arrogant under the attentive watch of two Spirit Realm warriors. Yin Hui's face was solemn. Wait and see. If he can get out of here safely, the future era will belong to him. Crew's and Hai Luo's eyes suddenly brightened. It's my bad I let you wait for so long. Outside the Silver Stone Fort, Shi Yang smiled then sighed. Unfortunately, you just wasted your time. If you want to deal with me, I think you should let Cao Qiu Dao and Yang Yi Tian do it themselves. Zhu Yanfeng and Sichu Jie aren't enough. This boy talks big. Zhu Yufeng snorted and gave a cold smile. What kind of calculation you've done? You're just a Sky Realm warrior. Do you think that's enough to ask our masters to play with you? Today, I'll show you that the real situation of the Endless Sea isn't what you've seen. Even if you have infinite potential, you can't do much. Hey! Shi Yang wore a mocking face, shook his head and said coldly, I'm waiting to see what you can do to me. The three strange energies of the ice-cold flame, the Holy Spirit God, and the earth flame had mixed together in the profound chi vortex, creating a torrential power, as strong as a river. A chain of bloodthirsty thoughts couldn't help rising up in his heart. Milky fog emitted from the pores in his entire body, forming something like a thick cocoon covering his body completely. A brutal and evil aura, as cold as ice, silently permeated the area. The sea water around him was like it was forced to stay away from him by an invisible force. Come out! He called out to the blood vein ring, and a mysterious giant sword flew out. At the same time, the king of demon insects and the devouring gold silkworm also turned into two different beams of light and parked on his shoulders separately. They opened their small eyes wider to watch the group of Zhu Yufeng. As the people of the sea tribes sensed the evil power that burst out from Shi Yang, they had their faces changed in awe. In front of the main gate of the Silver Stone Fort, a young girl from the Jade Clam clan covered her mouth in shock, as her eyes were panic-stricken. Previously, she had taunted Shi Yang. She wasn't eligible to join Crew's banquet, so after the party was over, she found someone she knew at the gate on the way home. However, she didn't have time to think much as she suddenly found an earth-shaking energy burst out from Shi Yang. Under that formidable fluctuating energy, she found herself so small, feeling frustrated even with a single glance at Shi Yang. The difference between their realms was too vast. At this moment, she knew how subtle Shi Yang was. Such a dangerous hotshot, he just needed to use a finger to savage her. She recalled the time she had disrespected him and felt scared, silently retreating into the city, as she worried that Shi Yang would find her. His name isn't in vain. Inside the Silver Stone Fort, Crew's pupils shrank. He suddenly nodded with a surprised face. So, you know why I've appreciated him, right? Yin Hui smiled. Crew nodded. If this young man keeps growing up this way, he will be a peerless warrior in the endless sea. Sigh, I finally know why the patriarch has valued him that much. Yang Tian Emperor has good fortune as the Yang family can have such an outstanding fellow. Never underestimate the Yangs. Yin Hui face became somber. Nu Lang used to say that in the endless sea, Yang Tian Emperor's the toughest. If you haven't seen him die with your own eyes, he will live forever. Our sea tribes are staying calm because we're afraid that Yang Tian Emperor will come back at some point. The Yangs are really extreme, exclaimed Crew. Don't give him the chance to prepare. Zhong Li Duns suddenly shouted. Numerous soul consciousness strands spread out from Situ Jie's head like tentacles, directly aiming for Shi Yang's sea of consciousness. Zhu Yufeng didn't dare to hesitate and also condensed his soul consciousness into a silver beam that naked eye could observe, slashing down at Shi Yang from the sky. They could vaguely see a tiny electric current inside the silver beam. Soul consciousness substantializing. Moreover, there was the lightning power inside his soul consciousness. This was clearly a sophisticated soul technique. Zhu Yufeng's eyes were as bright as stars when his vitality, qi, and spirit became one. He had gathered and condensed numerous beams of soul consciousness, controlled an executing god electric spear that had the lightning power to destroy Shi Yang's soul within this attack. The 9 firmament lightning was the nemesis of all souls. Once the lightning power struck the sea of consciousness, touching the soul, even spirit realm warriors wouldn't be able to bear it. This executing god lightning spear was Zhu Yufeng's strongest killing skill. With this skill, he had been swaggering in the endless sea for many years. Even Cao Qiu Dao had once said to have gotten hurt by the executing god lightning spear. When the strike was struck out, strong warriors from the sea tribes in the Silverstone fort, who could use their soul consciousness to sense, had their faces discolored. Shi Yang was the target. All of a sudden, under the attentive eyes, he closed his eyes. Inside his sea of consciousness, the host soul opened its third eye. The 9 serenities devouring soul flame released bizarre flames, spreading out in his sea of consciousness while Situ Jie's and Zhu Yufeng's soul strikes were attacking his sea of consciousness vehemently. Bunches of flame stormed over just like they could sense the smell of blood, burning off the soul energy that had just intruded Shi Yang's sea of consciousness. SSSSS. Under the burning flame of the 9 serenities devouring soul flame, the soul tentacles from Situ Jie and the executing god lightning spear of Zhu Yufeng had turned into nothingness. Situ Jie and Zhu Yufeng paled as blood gushed out from their mouth because their soul consciousness had been hurt severely. I told you. You're not strong enough. Shi Yang grinned then said, Situ Jie, I know who you are. Your soul had intruded our place in the Sun Island. I remembered it when you just released your soul consciousness. Haha. Good, good enough. It's time to take revenge. Chapter 465, Vicious Qi Overflows Firmament. Chapter 465, Vicious Qi Overflows Firmament. Shi Yang's real realm was at the sky realm, so certain flaws existed in his soul consciousness and soul. Without the assistance of the 9 serenities soul devouring flame in his host soul, facing the soul intrusion of a real spirit realm warrior, his sea of consciousness would explode, and his soul would collapse. However, the 9 serenities soul devouring flame had made up for this inferiority. This eccentric firmament flame could devour any kind of soul energy. Soul energies which dared to enter his sea of consciousness had no chance to escape danger as long as they had touched the fire of the 9 serenities soul devouring flame, all getting burned down. As he was sure about that, he dared to risk his life against spirit realm warriors, and he wasn't afraid of being soul attacked. Situ Jie and Zhu Yufeng had underestimated him. They didn't know that the dormant 9 serenities soul devouring flame was staying in his host soul. Thus, they had rushed to contact him and hurt their soul consciousness. The damage in the soul consciousness was severe to a warrior, as he couldn't recover it with only gathering qi from heaven and earth. Situ Jie and Zhu Yufeng sprayed out blood. They were looking at Shi Yang with pale faces, which were filled with fear and resentment. Inside the Silverstone fort, Yin Hui and crew from the Silverstone fort also changed their faces. They were looking at each other in a daze, as they could see the shock in the other's eyes. The soul attack that Sichu Jie and Zhu Yufeng had released and the soul surging that they could feel was all clear. They asked themselves, and realized that if they were Shi Yang, it would be tough for them to deal with these great soul techniques, no need to mention counterattack. But Shi Yang did that. A Sky Realm warrior could dissolve the killing soul techniques of 2 Spirit Realm warriors and also hurt their soul consciousness severely. This event made Yin Hui and crew confused if they had seen everything clear enough. When they looked at Shi Yang, their complexion became more serious. They didn't know what kind of heaven-shaking techniques he had. Go! When the 2 Spirit Realm warriors spat out blood, Shi Yang's face was still calm as he shouted. The king of demon insects and the devouring gold silkworm on his shoulders flew out, striking towards Sichu Jie and Zhu Yufeng. When the king of demon insects took off, an incredibly evil surging energy started to ripple from it, rolling towards Sichu Jie and Zhu Yufeng just like waves. The devouring gold silkworm was radiating gold beams. As a demonic beast of the metal class, it understood well how to use attacks to defend. After it had sucked the immortal blood, it seemed to have advanced in some aspect. It was now releasing the golden silk in the water, which were straight, small, and sharp as a needle, that could penetrate all kind of imprisonments. When the king of demon insects and the devouring gold silkworm made their debut, Sichu Jie's and Zhu Yufeng's countenances became more grimaced. At this moment, they came to know that Shi Yang had a level 8 king of demonic corpse-eating insects and a demonic beast of the metal class which could destroy even the hardest defenses, the devouring gold silkworm. The 2 of them suddenly recognized that besieging Shi Yang outside the Silver Stone Fort wasn't a rational decision. But it was impossible to stop halfway. Seeing the king of demonic insects and the devouring gold silkworm storm over, they could only gather their nerves to counter at all cost. As Sichu Jie was the consecrator of the martial spirit palace, he had learned many bizarre soul techniques from Yang Yitian. The soul attack of the king of demonic insects hadn't approached yet, when his pupils shrunk and a green light shot out from his eyes. Inside that green beam, people could vaguely see the illusion of green water and mountains, giving people a relaxed feeling. This was some sort of a soul technique that made people lose their fighting spirit, and just want to sink in the beautiful and poetic scenes. The illusions inside the green light piled up in layers, showing many attractive sights. The soul aura from it made people feel like they were sunbathing, and only want to stay in this scene forever. After the scene inside the green light spread out, the soul attack from the king of demonic insects halted, and then scattered like a rain shower, unable to intrude Sichu Jie's and Zhu Yufeng's souls. The calm soul consciousness was still spreading out, crossing the king of demonic insects and the devouring gold silkworm to reach Shi Yang. This time, Sichu Jie had acted more carefully, as he didn't dare to let the soul technique be absorbed directly into Shi Yang's sea of consciousness. He just let this intent domain expand near Shi Yang. Although it couldn't maximize the power of the calm soul consciousness soul technique to the peak, it could prevent his attack from being burned down by the devouring soul flame. This intent domain calmed people down to the point that they really wanted to sleep. Even though the attack's power was reduced, it still drained Shi Yang's fighting spirit. The dreadful fighting spirit had been affected by this strange intent domain. Shi Yang suddenly calmed down, as if this battle wasn't exciting at all and he just wanted to quit. He immediately realized that his soul consciousness had been affected by Sichu Jie's intent domain. The spirit realm warrior had learned the subtle principle of the earth and firmament. If Shi Yang didn't counter with care, he would have himself perished. Mysterious ice enthralls. He shouted in his mind and withdrew the ice chi of the ice-cold flame, guiding the biting cold chi to his brain. The relaxed mind of his got struck by this cold chi. He couldn't help but shiver, which immediately helped him recover his sound mind. The dreadful fighting spirit once lost had been condensed again. When his fighting spirit rose up again, the power he had condensed was directly poured into the mysterious giant sword. Blood-like red eyes opened one by one on the sword. Whenever a new eye opened, the brutal and ruthless murderous aura emitting from the sword was rising by another intense level. When 2/3 of the eyes on the sword had opened, Shi Yang entered the third sky of rampage. Previously, when he was in the mystical, exotic land, He had a fortunate chance to peek at the subtle features of the third sky of Rampage. Once the negative forces had been absorbed into his flesh, tendons, bones, and meridians of his entire body, it would merge with his own powers. When all kind of negative energies affected the energy in his body, he would fall into the wild, bloodthirsty state. This realm and the bedevilment were the same. His eyes were red, and it seemed like he had lost his mind. A desire of destroying everything gradually churned up in his heart. The third sky of Rampage. All kind of negative energies were urged, and as the negative tide rose immensely, a look shot out from his eyes could bring up the negative spirit. Each acupoint could burst out all of a sudden during his fight. In this peculiar realm, he only urged the simplest murderous desire. The power of his entire body would raise up massively under the urge of the desire at the bottom of his heart, and he wouldn't experience pain and tiredness. In just a short time, his power would soar up abruptly. A surging energy that could destroy both the earth and firmament burst out from Shiyang as its center. The sea water around him was rolling like huge tsunami, forming a massive vortex. Such a formidable energy. Yin Hui had a shocked face, and couldn't help but exclaim, as his eyes were dazzling with light. Crew was also astounded. He constantly shook his head. This kid does have the extreme qualification. This powerful aura can be compared with that of a third sky of spirit realm warrior. Hai Luo's charming eyes brightened. She balled her small hands into fists and threw them excitedly in the air. He's so cool. All the members of the sea tribes surrounding them paled. They instinctively retreated into the silver stone fort, keeping themselves as far from Shiyang as possible. Cao Zilan wore a cold face. She wanted to take action, but a feeling of being helpless rose up from the bottom of her heart. That year, when they were in the chasm battlefield, although Shiyang was dangerous, he had been far behind from who he was now. At that time, Cao Zilan had had her guts to fight with him. But now, looking at Shiyang releasing the intimidating aura, she couldn't endure it. She only wanted to hide away, and didn't dare to protest. In the third sky of Rampage, the earth-shaking surging energy was flowing out from his body. He stretched his arm, pointing at the mysterious giant sword. The sword then slashed down, turning into a red ribbon and bringing with it the destructive aura, directly attacking Sichu Jie and Zhu Yufeng. A deadly destructive intent domain was released from the giant sword. Sichu Jie and Zhu Yufeng were affected by that intent domain, as an unexpected thought rose up in their mind. I'm dead. When this thought arose, Sichu Jie's and Zhu Yufeng's aura were suppressed. When their imposing aura was subdued, they couldn't urge the power in their body. Under the attack of the mysterious giant sword and the attentive gaze of the king of demonic insects and the devouring gold silkworm, they had to struggle even more. Go! Zhu Yufeng wore a cold face as he shouted. His body constantly generating illusions, as his true body directly came to Cao Zilan, grabbed her then turned into a light, escaping to a distant place. Sichu Jie didn't dare to linger. In just a blink of an eye, he came to Zhongli Dun, lifted the guy who was petrified, and fled away. Kang Lan of the Penglai Holy Land saw the two spirit realm warriors run away, so how could he dare to stay? Despite his wounded body, he urged the forbidden technique to flee away, bringing Pan Zhe with him. They disappeared within a short period. As the giant sword was slashing down and its targets were thousands of li away, it could only halt and withdraw the brutal energy with the blood scent permeating the area. Shi Yang was surprised, used his soul consciousness to sense and then reluctantly shook his head. As Zhu Yufeng and Sichu Jie were the spirit realm warriors, if they fled away, it would be hard to chase after them. He released his soul consciousness, but he couldn't sense their current locations. This proved that the direction they had gone was extremely far from him. He wasn't interested in chasing after them. If he maintained this current state, he had to consume the energies of the Holy Spirit God, the ice-cold flame, and the earth flame constantly. Anyway, Zhu Yufeng and Sichu Jie were spirit realm warriors. If he pursued them, he would only waste the powers of the three living beings. This wasn't what he wanted to see. As they didn't stay to fight, Shi Yang couldn't do anything. Now he could only leave them there and do the accounting later. Awesome boy. Yin Hui laughed, then flew out from the Silverstone fort. I've made up my mind. I'll guide you to the antiquity lofty dragon graveyard myself. Chapter 466, Second Sky of Sky Realm. Chapter 466, Second Sky of Sky Realm. Inside a coral reef, thousands of li away from the Silverstone Fort. The 6 people of Situ Jez's group were hiding in between the 5-colored coral light. Their faces were illuminated with colorful lights, looking quite odd. Situ Je and Zhu Yufeng had joined the battle together, and that damaged their soul consciousness significantly. They didn't take any advantage from Shi Yang but got hurt themselves, and finally, had to run away distressingly. This was a deeply depressing attack. Situ Je and Zhu Yufeng had a grimaced countenance as a light was flickering in their eyes. Their moods were down, and they kept sighing. Cao Zilan had no color on her face. Her complexion darkened, and her sparkling eyes had lost their shiny shade. She looked quite dreary and helpless, just like the state of her mind now. She recognized that she couldn't understand Shi Yang completely. How many years had passed? Shi Yang, who was chased after and threatened in the chasm battlefield, had become such an intimidating character. This took just a short time that she didn't dare to accept. In the endless sea, she was also a genius. Under the nourishment of the cow family, her cultivation speed was fast, as she had entered the 3rd sky of Earth realm even when she wasn't 30 years old yet. She would soon reach the Nirvana realm. Without Shi Yang as a reference, she would be happy and proud of her natural endowments. But today, when compared with Shi Yang, she found out that her progress wasn't even worth mentioning. When they had first met, she didn't put Shi Yang in her eyes. But now, it had just been a few years, and she had to look up to him. This sudden attack made her, the one who had boasted about herself as a talent, feel really small. Regret. Panja beamed a forced smile and reluctantly shook his head. Previously, I knew this man wasn't someone we should look down on. But I still disdained him. How long it has been. I find that I don't know him at all. Within this 1 year, I don't really know how he has cultivated. No one could have expected that he has tamed a level 8 demonic beast, and he also has such tremendous surging power. Panja let out a deep sigh. I've regretted it. But what is it for? As things have come to this, as we've done it wrong, we should follow the wrong way to the end. Cao Zilan couldn't deny her failure. Her pretty eyes had lost their spirit as she was speaking the bitter words. He won't spare us. Even though he won't take revenge now, he will come for us sooner or later. Soon, we will meet him in the endless sea. Sigh, the endless sea's chaotic enough. If he comes back, no one knows what it will look like in the future. We're not afraid of him if he doesn't have the demonic beasts. But that beast can subdue us, and it has some method to break our soul consciousness. Sigh, it's hard to deal with him. Zhu Yufeng also sighed. Why can this boy from the Yang family reach such imposing strength? Who can tell me what's happened? Only he knows. Situ Jez's face darkened. It seems we have to strengthen our forces if we want to deal with him. I think he's still somewhere undersea. We should call someone from the land to join us and kill him. We can try Wu Xin, Jiyu Xiao, and Dongfang Ju. I think we can only choose that way, said Zhu Yufeng begrudgingly. Yeah, I will send the message and call for them. Situ Je mused, then spoke up in a low tone. Certainly, Shi Yang would wander around this area. Wait until our assistance comes. We can then find him right away. With more people, we can absolutely kill him. If this kid is not eradicated, the endless sea will have no future. Even if it has a future, that future will belong to him. After he had said that, the group of Cao Zilan and Zhong Li Dun discolored. Don't think that I'm merely talking about a dangerous sensation. Situ Je snorted coldly. I've seen him grow up with my own eyes. That year when he was on the Sun Island, he needed the guard from the demonic Sound clan and the Wings clan to run away under my soul consciousness suppression. How long it has been. Now, my soul consciousness couldn't attack him, and it even bit me back. If we give him more time, he can become the peerless character of the endless sea. At that time, it will be impossible to kill him. Yeah. We should absolutely not give him more time. Zhongli Dun shouted with a cold face. Summon the hotshots, and put this man to death. In front of the Silver Stone Fort. The patriarch of the Silver Shark clan Yin Hui laughed and flew towards Shi Yang from the Silver Stone Fort. Under the attentive looks of the warriors from the sea tribes, Shi Yang deliberately withdrew his mysterious giant sword. His sense flickered, as he suddenly found a strange fluctuation sent to him from the mysterious giant sword. The mysterious giant sword had just guided him to make him release the deadly intent domain. As they were sinking into it, the intent domain of death covered them, which helped the mysterious giant sword affect Sichu Jie and Zhu Yufeng. Unexpectedly, these two spirit realm warriors had a disheartened psyche. Under the effects of the deadly intent domain, the two spirit realm warriors had to run away distressingly, and didn't dare to parry the mystical giant sword. Currently, when Shi Yang wanted to retrieve the giant sword, he realized that the destructive, deadly intent domain released by the sword was still there. It didn't fade away together with the two spirit realm warriors. But what surprised him was the vehement life intent domain after the deadly intent domain had risen. Only he could sense this bustling life intent domain behind the destructive, deadly intent domain he had released. The existence of this life intent domain seemed to enhance some sort of ability of the deadly intent domain. But he hadn't released the life intent domain. Did the giant sword do that? What was going on? Being dazed for a while, he couldn't help but open his mind and sink into the mystical giant sword, as he wanted to see the mysteries more clearly. After his soul consciousness jumped in, he found a shape that surprised him even more. Behind the life intent domain, there was the deadly aura, and behind this level, there existed another layer of life intent domain. The intent domains of death and life were blended inside the mysterious giant sword, just like a stair that had one step followed by another alternately. This uninterrupted sequence had created the strange reincarnation. Death, life, and reincarnation. Death or destruction appeared to prepare for the new life being born, the appearance of the new living being. Death and life couldn't be separated. A living being would have the fate of dying, and dying had the meaning of being reborn. As if it was to enlighten him with the wisdom, the truth that was related to death, life, and reincarnation appeared in his mind like lightning all of a sudden. His body was shaken, as he was stunned, and lightning was flashing in his eyes. Thoughts were interweaving at the speed of light in this mind, as he was acquiring the knowledge of the death and life intent domains. All of a sudden, the aura of life and death took turns and emitted from his body. This phenomenon looked oddly incomparable. Yin Hui arrived, but as he was about to say something, he was stunned. The king of demon insects, the devouring gold silkworm, and even the mystical giant sword were aiming for him. They seemed to warn him against something. Looking at Shi Yang, Yin Hui frowned as he was sensing. Then, Yin Hui's face was brightened. He understood something. This is the flash of realization. Good kid. Yin Hui complimented the young man in his heart. But when he looked at the king of demonic insects and the devouring gold silkworm staring at him like tigers watching their prey, he couldn't help but take some steps back. Crew also came out at this moment, standing behind him. He was also surprised, looking at Shi Yang. Patriarch, is he? Yes, he's comprehending some kind of intent domain. Just a fight and he could perceive the truth of some power. This is really inconceivable. Yin Hui confirmed his assumption and reminded him, don't come close to him. That king of demonic insects is not easy to play with. That sword seems to have its own consciousness as well. Don't come close. Crew's face changed, and nodded to indicate that he understood the matter. You should go, but don't leave the Silverstone Fort. Yin Hui mused for a while, but he still couldn't ease his mind, shouting at the people of the sea tribes who were about to come there and check the situation. Having heard Yin Hui's shout, they halted and observed from a far distance. How? Inquired Hai Luo with sweet and delicate voice. He's about to break through. The corner of Crew's mouth slightly moved, talking to her. A mighty man among the men. I have never seen a young man with this natural endowment. Hai Luo, you shouldn't maintain close relationships with him. This boy has a great charisma. I'm afraid you would fall in love with him. Well, I think I like him already. Hai Luo smiled shyly. He's much stronger than me and the other sea tribes members. Father, haven't you said that only a strong warrior could be my partner? I think he's able, isn't he? No joking, Crew shook his head. You should never involve with a man like that. Once you do, you will live in regret for the rest of your life. I think this kid will not be content with his lot. Our Silver Shark clan can't mess up with such a fellow. His future enemies wouldn't be ordinary, either. Yin Hui nodded. If he survives the Endless Seas event, I'm sure the future of the Endless Sea will belong to him. Crew nodded in agreement. After an unknown period of time, Shi Yang awoke from his comprehension of death and life realm. Where water flowed, a canal would be formed. He didn't linger. After he had comprehended the truth, he had directly entered the second sky of Sky Realm. The death and life intent domains were like a strange nutrient that were absorbed into his sea of consciousness and left a seal on his host soul. This made the host soul and the sea of consciousness sublimate together, which inspired his whole body. The density and purity of his profound chi had soon reached the peak. With only one time of perceiving the truth, he could break through directly. This fight helped him recognize that the life intent domain and the death intent domain couldn't be separated. It also made him realize that death and life had a coexistence relationship and that one could not live without the other. With this new comprehension, he entered the new realm, the second sky of Sky Realm. After waking up, he sensed his body situation, and he found that the profound chi ancient tree had grown up even more. It now could continue to promote the profound chi and gather stronger power. His mind flickered, and his body relaxed to detach the ice-cold flame, the Holy Spirit God, and the earth flame. He then retrieved the mysterious giant sword, the king of demonic insects and the devouring gold silkworm. Then, he looked at Yin Hui. You've said that you wanted to take me to the antiquity lofty dragon graveyard? Yes, Yin Hui smiled, then praised him. Congratulations. You've leaped up to another realm that fast. Kid, you're really out of the ordinary. I have to admit this. Haha, Shi Yang smiled. Let's go. I really want to visit the antiquity lofty dragon's tomb. If you want to take me there, let's go. No big deal. Chapter 467, Remaining Might. Chapter 467, Remaining Might. After a fight, Shi Yang had entered the second sky of Sky Realm directly. Through the fight with Sichu Jie and Zhu Yufeng, his confidence was boosted, as he knew that the two Spirit Realm warriors couldn't kill him. Thus, when he went with Yin Hui, he wasn't afraid of the other anymore. Yin Hui could be a decent match at Shi Yang's level, which could bring him to another height. So, when he talked to Yin Hui, he didn't need to fret, and he could say anything he wanted without worrying that he would displease Yin Hui. The reason why he chose to carry out the battle in front of the Silver Stone Fort was to show his competence to all the members of the Sea Tribes. This would make those people realize his real capacity that could help him counter any strong warriors from any races. He could even win. The Yang family was now different from the past, as their situation wasn't stable. He wanted to prove that he was strong enough to threaten the Sea Tribes. He wanted to make them realize that even if Yang Tian Emperor weren't there, as long as Shi Yang still stayed there, the Yang family could always live in peace in the barren city. He wanted to make the people of the Sea Tribes who were disloyal be content with their lot. He believed that the details of this fight would be spread out through the whole seabed. At that time, Yang Zhuo in the barren city would know that he was going to the antiquity lofty dragon graveyard and that he could ease his mind. You don't need to take me there yourself. Walking in the water, Shi Yang glared at Yin Hui walking next to him. He frowned and said, "You are the patriarch of a clan. You must have many businesses to attend to. Why do you want to waste your time and come with me? I also want to check the situation at the antiquity lofty dragon graveyard," said Yin Hui. Our Silver Shark clan is located in this sea area. I've been to that dragon's tomb, but I haven't had the guts to enter the area. Haha. It's hard to find someone who isn't afraid of death. Of course, I want to see what you can do there. Shi Yang was surprised. You've been there before. Didn't you say that no one could return alive? Yin Hui suddenly felt shamed. I said I was watching from a distance. I didn't dare to go inside the tomb. Kid, Are you ridiculing me intentionally? No, Shiyang smiled. So, how is that place? You're going there anyway, it's useless to answer that question. You'd better come and see yourself to have an accurate cognition. Yin Hui's face became serious. He hesitated for a while before speaking up again. Shiyang, I think I should warn you. If possible, don't go there. Hey! The antiquity lofty dragon graveyard is protected by some force of our sea tribes. Even our hotshots couldn't return alive on entering that area, let alone you kiddo. Yin Hui showed his sincere complexion. Fella, your cultivation base is exquisite. Apparently, later on, you'll be the number 1 or 2 hotshot of the endless sea. Why should you risk your life this time? If I didn't take risks, I wouldn't have broken through that fast. Shiyang laughed. As you can enter the second sky of spirit realm, I'm sure you've undergone deadly situations as well. If we don't have the guts to not be afraid of death, how can we break through continuously? Forget it. It's all right if you don't want to take my advice. Yin Hui, of course, understood that his words weren't in vain. Every strong warrior would only perceive the realm comprehension through a deadly fight. Only if they were constantly near death would they recognize something they had never done in their typical life. Well, it's not sure that I would encounter dangers when I visit the ancient lofty dragon's tomb. Shiyang laughed arrogantly. What? Tell me. Do you think I look like an idiot? No, you don't. Yeah, so you can be assured about that. You did go to the dark magnetic noxious mist, right? I know you've been there. From your description, if a man has never been there, he can't give such clear and detailed description. What is inside the dark magnetic noxious mist? As far as I've known, there are so many marvelous things in there. For instance, the life original fluid. Shiyang's face discolored as he was amazed. A strange light flashed in his eyes. Seems you know something about the dark magnetic noxious mist. Not me. Some precursors in my clan know something about the dark magnetic noxious mist. Yin Hui contemplated, then spoke up again. Our Silver Shark clan lives under the Vault of Heaven Sea area, and that dark magnetic noxious mist is in the east of the Vault of Heaven Sea area. Yeah, among the sea tribes, our Silver Shark clan is nearest to that place. Some precursors of our clan had been there. Most of them got lost. Some of them returned but couldn't tell the details inside the area. Only one precursor had met a human being in there, and hence, he knew something marvelous related to that place, including the life original fluid. You know the effects of the life original fluid? Shiyang was stunned. It gives the third sky of spirit realm warriors a great chance to enter the true God realm, reducing the possibility of failure and risk. Yin Hui's eyes were brightened as he yelled, I think any spirit realm warriors would never forget a special thing like the life original fluid once they hear about it. If he got this thing, I think Enyu Lang would directly seclude himself to cultivate and try to break through the true God realm. Haha. Too bad this thing could be only directly seen, and not be wished for. Enyu Lang knows that, but he doesn't dare to keep dreaming. Shiyang was moved. You've been in the dark magnetic noxious mist. Have you ever heard about this? Yin Hui's eyes were as bright as the torch as he grinned, then said, My precursor told us that the life original fluids somehow related to a level 8 demonic beast. If I'm not wrong, that beast's a corpse-eating demonic insect, isn't it? Shiyang's eyebrows slammed together. He finally knew the reason why Yin Hui wanted to take him to the ancient dragon's graveyard personally. The life original fluid. To warriors at the spirit realm, if they knew about the life original fluid, no one could press down their desire. The Silver Shark clan lived near the dark magnetic noxious mist. Many precursors of the Silver Shark clan had come there, so they must know about the life original fluid. Shiyang had returned from the dark magnetic noxious mist, and he even had the king of demonic insects. When he connected the information, how could Yin Hui keep himself from overthinking? When I was in the dark magnetic noxious mist, I had heard about the life original fluid. However, the rumor I've known isn't related to the corpse-eating demonic insects. Shiyang wore a calm face and said faintly, As far as I am concerned, my demonic insect doesn't know about the life original fluid. I think you are overthinking. Am I? Yin Hui grinned. His eyes were as bright as a flame, gazing at Shi Yang. Ha ha. Perhaps I'm overthinking. I thought you had the life original fluid. Yeah. If you do have the life original fluid, let alone me, even NU Lang will be willing to do any kind of business with you. To NU Lang, a drop of the life original fluid is more precious than a sea area in the endless sea. Shi Yang frowned, smiled, but didn't comment anything. If I can have a drop of the life original fluid, I, Yin Hui, can also ignore the principles. Unfortunately, I don't have it. You shouldn't think about it much. Oh, that's too bad. Barren City. From the Sea Tribe's members, Yang Zhuo got to know about the big fight that happened at the Silverstone Fort. Finally, he could confirm that Shi Yang wanted to visit the antiquity Lofty Dragon's tomb. Father, did Shi Yang really hurt Zhu Yufeng and Sichu Jie? He even made them flee with difficulty. Did it really happen? Asked Yang Mu excitedly. The faces of some juniors in the Yang family reddened as if they were the main character in that fight. Yeah. People from the Sea Tribes said so. Many members of the Sea Tribes at the Silverstone Fort had witnessed that battle. Afterward, many Sea Tribes members here are staying content with their lot. They even treat us with more respect. That kid Shi Yang did something incredible. Ha ha. I always knew that he wouldn't be law-abiding. You see, just a couple days and he had stirred up the Silverstone Fort. Many sea clans have seen him, laughed Yang Mu. Don't be happy that early. He's really dumb this time as he wants to visit the antiquity Lofty Dragon graveyard. I think he would be all right. The beautiful eyes of Li Feng glistened. Don't know why, but I can sense the infinite potential in him. If someone else goes to the dragon's tomb, I'm sure he will die. But if it's Shi Yang, I think the result will be different. I think so too, smiled Yang Shui. The young generation of the Yang family had an extreme blind trust on Shi Yang after they had known about the surprises Shi Yang had brought. You guys don't really know the immensity of earth and firmament. Yang Zhuo beamed a forced smile. Under the vault of Heaven Sea area, inside the colorful coral reef, 4 silhouettes slowly descended next to Sichu Jie, all wearing serious faces. Aunt Xiong, Cao Zilan gracefully called out. You've arrived. After they received the news of the battle, Qing Ming, the Queen of Heaven, the Emperor of Earth and Ji Xiao immediately left aside the dispute they had in the endless sea to work together, and came to the seabed. You have guys suffered the hardship due to him, haven't you? Asked Ji Xiao from the group of 6 with a cold and strict face. Is he that dangerous? Ji Xiao looked at Sichu Jie, then Qing Ming, the Queen of Heaven, and the Emperor of Earth. He frowned. Do you really need to mobilize our force? If we don't exterminate him this time, we will not have any chance later. Sichu Jie shook his head and sighed. That brat isn't afraid of soul consciousness intrusions. At present, he's at the Sky Realm, but I don't know what kind of force he has borrowed, as he could exude the aura that wasn't less intimidating like a second Sky of Spirit Realm warrior. Besides, he has a level 8 demonic beast and a metal class beast. They're really savage. It's been just a year, and he's made such progress. Queen of Heaven fan Shang Yun gave a forced smile. We couldn't withstand him in the battle that year. Now, he's even more dangerous. It's tough this time. If not, we wouldn't need to call you here, sighed Zhu Yufeng. However, it's different this time. With the 4 of you, we will have the absolute triumph. Sichu Jie darkened his face and said maliciously, this time, he must die. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.